Welcome to another episode on the 108 Flow podcast. Today I have Adele with me, who is an interior designer, a published author, and an executive coach. So Adele, what inspired you to be a life coach?
I'm more of a performance coach, so I'll explain the differences of what that actually means. So I started learning how to coach in a corporate environment.
All right.
And how to coach for better results in the workplace. So we based it around performance coaching, and I learned how to informally coach, which is corridor conversations. You might walk up to me and going, I'm really struggling with X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
And most people would say, just try this, this, and this. But if you go try this, this, and this, and it don't work, guess what? You've got no accountability, and you can blame me for it going wrong.
Yeah.
So that's how it normally operates in the workplace. But what you do when you're doing performance coaching is, say, for example, we're making a cup of tea and you come up to me and you're going, I'm struggling with X, Y, and Z.
Mm-hmm.
My first question is, well, what have you tried? What could you do? What options have you got? If you tried option 1, what would be the outcome and the results or the impact? And if you tried option 2, what would be the outcome and the impact?
Right.
And then you would tell me, and I'd say, well, which one are you going to try? And then you're empowered, you've got accountability, and you've worked out the answer just from somebody asking you a few questions. So then you go back to your desk or whatever you're doing and you try to put in place the idea that you came up with. You get a result and you think, oh, that worked really well. And then that inspires you to start thinking differently. So we coach team leaders in an informal basis.
Well, that's cool.
Really cool. Really cool, especially when you start seeing results.
Yeah. I can imagine.
And it's like if you imagine your kids as well, if you keep telling them the answer to everything, they'll just keep relying on you. Now, don't get me wrong, sometimes you have to be directive with kids. But if they're trying to solve a problem and you always solve their problems for them, you're not encourage them to free think and to use their brain and to switch on the powers. Because you asked me what inspired me, because everyone's got untapped potential. So if your kids come up to you and they've got a problem, one of the best ways you could answer is like, have you ever had a problem like this before and how did you solve it? Get them thinking.
Yeah.
Get them using their brain. That's where, because we get told what to do by our parents, we get told what to do in school, and we get told what to do in the workplace. And we never really learn to think for ourselves. And that's the part of conditioning of society. We're just here to obey, to listen, obey, do. And actually coaching unlocks a lot of our potential.
Yeah. I quite like that notion as well, because I see it a lot with our kids, and you are sometimes passing on the programming what you've had from your parents, and you just do as I say, and they're also asking questions, and you've got to open it up so they can think more. And it's like what you're saying is it's rather teach them how to fish than give them the fish.
What's the old proverb saying?
Yeah.
You can eat a fish and live for one day feeling full.
Yeah.
Or you can learn how to fish and have it for the rest of your life.
Yeah, and that's kind of the motto, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's the thing. I remember being in Sunday school, and I remember, because my mum and dad were really religious, and this made me go to Sunday school for 18 years of my life. And I remember being in Sunday school, and I said to one of the Sunday school teachers, because the kids are curious, but the conditioning tells you not to be curious and to just do as you're told and not think and free think. And in Sunday school, I remember saying to one of my Sunday school teachers, why is our God the right God and everybody else's God is wrong? And they went, just because it is.
I bet that didn't resonate.
And you sat there as a kid and you're like, well, what does that mean? Just because it is, like, why is that?
It's not a good enough answer, is it?
No, but no one could ever tell me. And then, but they still want you to believe in this religion is the right religion and everybody else's religion is the wrong religion. And I'm thinking, well, surely God's the same person. I don't understand. It makes no sense to me.
How did you find that Sunday school?
I find it's brainwashing.
Yeah.
It's a form of brainwashing to help you fit into a controlled system.
Were your parents very religious as well?
Yeah, they were born again Christians.
Yeah.
I think the turning point for me, because I always believed there was something out there, but I married an atheist husband.
Right.
And that is when he started challenging my programming of religion. And this is one of the most interesting conversations that I had with him, because whenever we got drunk, he wanted to talk about religion, which was not something I ever wanted to do, but there you go. But one of the things that I found quite profound is that When he explained this to me, you know, when you have one of those moments and you just go, oh my God, you're so right. So I'm God, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I decide I want to create a planet and I want to create these people. And I'm going to sit and watch everyone from my big cloud because that's what religion says that God is, right? He's
Yeah.
just sat there and he created the universe. So imagine you're bored one day, you're God, and you go, I think I'm going to create a universe. I'm going to create all these people. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to create evil. And I'm going to create guilt and shame, and I'm going to create cancer, and I'm going to create murders and rapists because I'm going to create this free will. And you actually create that. You must be quite an evil person because you could create somebody without greed and pride and evilness. You could create someone who doesn't even know that exists. You could create a perfect utopian world. But you chose to give people free will, to murder each other, to rape each other, to backstab each other, to betray each other. Because that's how you created your design. You created that kids would be born with cancer and disabilities. You could have not created any of that, but you chose to do that. So is he or she a good person?
I have my own take on that, and it's
Yeah.
been pondered. It's funny that you've even brought it up because it's been on my brain the last couple of weeks. And the way that I see it is, yes, God created all this, and it were a utopia at the start. And they were like, how do we get them more well-rounded to learn life lessons? And there needs to be an opposition to what this is, because then
Good
how?
versus evil, is that
Yeah,
what you
yeah,
mean?
yeah,
Yeah.
and also
But
I've
why
seen.
even create evil in the first place?
Because it gives you more because if everyone was just so happy, no one would ever learn anything. Where
So my counterpoint to that is, why did he create it for us to learn stuff? Why, if you can create anything from scratch, and he talks about loving you all and being a perfect place, and it's all about love, why would you create all the bad stuff that goes with it?
because
If you're creating a design from scratch, if you were creating a world for your kids, would you go, I'm going to put some rapists and some murders in there with you?
the thing is like if you're looking on a deeper note and saying this, if you go back to Hindu practices and they're saying there's reincarnation, which I truly believe there
Yeah.
is. So if say on your last life that you were horrible, and in fact there's a guy who I follow, Saint Julian. He talked about he does he looks after a disabled child's village in Tanzania,
Okay.
but he always called them the fallen ones.
The
These
what
kids,
ones?
fallen ones,
Fallen ones.
the kids that looks after these with high disabilities, and witch doctors get after them, and it's nasty stuff. But if you think about reincarnation, what if these people in the previous life were the rapists and they've came back and reincarnated into these bodies that are getting raped? It's a cycle. It's their hell because it's just a state of mind. But what they're saying is to be Christ-like, even though you've known they've done them things before, you've still got to bring the love in and bring them back. You know, show them love, even though they have been them horrible people. I mean, it's just another form of it happening.
I was having a similar thought process over the last few weeks about people that have really good lives. So, you know, like people who seem to have really blessed lives that don't seem to have any like trauma or uphill struggles.
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking, well, how do you not know in all their previous lives they've had nothing but struggles and upheaval
And
and
this is
bad
their
shit?
point
And
of
this is their
heaven.
time now where they get to have a good ride.
Yeah, and also I don't know if you've seen that. I don't know what movie it's off, but it's a clip, and I think it's the little old lady. She's on a deathbed, and there's a guy, and he said to him, he says, "You think there's a God, but he's done. I've done all the nastiest things in the world, but I've never had this suffering that you have." And she went, "Yeah, but um, you've been comfortable in your life doing suffering, but you were meant for so much more."
Wow.
You know, like you haven't even stepped into your power, but you've been happy doing mischief, so you've been at the other side of it. And the way I perceive it is God created all this to experience itself. So when he did all this, he knew he was putting suffering in, and then he wanted to give us the own free will, and it was gonna see who chooses what side and who's gonna win. Will they choose good, or will we inherit?
So it's a game to
Yeah,
him
it's a
then.
game.
It's
Well,
basically a giant game of
well,
chess.
if you look at and if you look at the Masonic board, they know it's a game because
Yeah.
they use the black and white, and it is about good against evil. And I know deep down that I'm a good person,
Yeah.
but we all know that we have traits of not being good people,
Well,
and
it's
these are
nature versus nurture, isn't
yeah,
it?
and I think that's why this time in history that's going on is there's a massive calling for everyone to do this inner healing
Mm.
and to get to that point of start deprogramming the stuff that is making us to be the bad side, because we all have them, and it's just getting through it, trudging through the crap, deprogramming, and getting back to a more nature, yeah,
A natural
natural
state
state,
of
yeah,
mind. Yeah,
yeah.
totally agree.
And that's where I think we're at. It's just getting accelerated at the moment. You can see it from left to right, can't you? It's just,
More and more people are waking up.
and they need to,
Yeah.
because it needs to happen sharpish. I know they're
Yeah, we're
saying it.
still in a system though, aren't we? And until everyone, if every single person in the whole of Britain says, I'm not paying my bills or I'm not going to work, we could bring this country to its knees and get change immediately. But everyone lives in fear. You know that that's what they want to breed in the vibrational frequency and how they've altered music, because they can't control people if they're happy and they're having
Yeah.
great lives. They can control people if they're in fear. Why do you think the news is all doom and gloom?
It's George Orwell who says it.
Exactly.
You can't control this. They fear love because they can't control it. It comes from Most High. It's the thing, like what he says is that Saint Julian. He said once he'd been through the process and got cleansed or whatever, they once you're fully tapped into the higher mind and that power's controlled like through you, the lower nature stuff doesn't. It's unpredictable. They can't control it, but because they know that we're still in these patterns, it's like an algorithm. They know exactly. You'll if I do A to you, B you might do B, C, or D. So there's three outcomes, and they know the probable chart. Obviously, you've seen it what AI can do, so they know on kind of how you'll react. But once you step into this higher mind and you're being guided by the Most High, the best version of yourself,
Yeah.
they can't know what's coming because it's not in the program. It's like when you're getting blessed or the synchronicities that you've experienced in your life. You ain't seen that coming. You didn't even know it were on your radar. Well, it's not on your radar. It just comes out unexpected.
My awakening was like being hit by a bus. I've never experienced anything like it in my life.
Out of everyone who's been on here, I don't think anyone's had a nice landing. But this is, again, if there wasn't that bit of suffering,
Yeah.
would you think it was so divine? If that happened every day, there'd be
It's
nothing.
one of the best things that ever happened to me, but one of the most. I'd call it an adventure, but I'd also call it quite distressing at times.
Yeah. Well, it has to shake you to move you.
Well, it's trying to figure out what's going on with you. You think you're losing your mind?
How did yours come about then?
Oh God, this is the story and a half. I've got for 16 hours. So I was seeing someone. I was engaged to him, and the relationship was coming to an end. He'd become an alcoholic. He'd become verbally abusive, and I'd just had enough. And I'd had two panic attacks, and I'd never had a panic attack in my life. And I was just like, I think I'd never really known my own self-worth.
Yeah.
And there was a point where I kind of sat down one day and I was just like, I'm really passionate about renovating houses, doing interior design. I've just got a coaching qualification. I'm determined, I'm driven, and I'm with this guy that just wants to drink and abuse me. And I thought, but he tells me he loves me, but when he gets drunk, he just wants to tear me down. His reasoning for it was, I never felt good enough for you. So, abusing me is the way forward. You should be lifting me up in my power and, celebrating me. But he had a lot of trauma and insecurities. And like most people, they project them onto other people. So I'd sat there and I'd thought about it and I thought, I'm worth so much more than this. And discovering your self-worth, I think, was part one. Knowing, actually, I'm a really good person. Can I explain this to you in a way that a lot of girls are programmed to believe that their looks are really important, number one, in self-worth. How their hair looks, how their makeup looks, how their boobs look, how thin their legs are, how flat their stomach is. That's what society teaches young girls is important from the minute they come out of the womb.
Yeah.
And I had based my self-worth for nearly 40 years around how nice my hair looked, what clothes I wore, how flat my belly was, how skinny my legs looked, how good I looked on a night out. Because that's what the world told me that I should do. And as I was sat down one day having this thought in my head about my self-worth with him and about what I brought to the table and what he brought to the table, because he had a very kind of low in pay manual job, and got drunk and abused me, and that's the only things he did. I had all these other things going on for me. And as I sat down and thought about my self-worth, all of a sudden it just clicked into place that actually the way I treat others, how I think about stuff, how I deal with situations, how kind I am, how compassionate I am, how forgiving I am, how determined I am, all these things. So, and then my looks came down here. So all my looks and my who I was as a being was down here, because it's not something you're taught to value.
Yeah.
All of a sudden swapped round, and I thought, fucking hell, I'm a really good person.
Like the soul creeping to the top.
Yeah, and even at that point, the awakening hadn't happened, but that was step one for me, was realising I've got all these things going for me, and my looks are not even that important.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, I just thought, I know I've got self-worth, acceptance of self. And that was a trigger point for me, because a couple of weeks later, he got drunk, he abused me, and I said, I gave him one more chance. He used that chance, and I said, I'm not forgiving you this time. I'm done. This is not how I'm going to spend the rest of my life. It's not what I'm going to do.
Very empowering.
So, yeah, and it takes a lot to walk away from someone that you'd wanted to spend the rest of your life with, but you've got to, at that point, that realisation had happened to me that I'm not worth.
Yeah.
I'm worth so much more than who you are and what you're giving me. It was like I was seeing through a veil. So that was kind of stage one. So he lived with me for about a month until we sorted out finances and everything.
Yeah.
And the day that he was due to move out, I'd gone to London the day before on a work trip, so I was coming back from London, and he was moving out. Now, I would say my awakening started when I arrived in London, but I didn't know that it had started. It was the beginning of it. It was like peeling an orange and revealing little bits. So I arrived in London to meet one of my stakeholders to do some work. And I'd met him a couple of times on the phone, and he'd come across quite like harsh and direct. And I thought, you know, whatever, just go in there, be professional. And I met him, and I thought, oh, you're beautiful. You're not like how you've come across on the calls.
Not picture a twat.
Yeah. Anyway, we worked together for these 2 days, and I remember at the end of the 2 days saying to him, "Do you know what's really weird? I feel like I've known you for like 1,000,000 years and more. It's really weird. I can't put my finger on it. I feel like I've just known you for a really, really, really long time, like more than 1,000,000 years."
Yeah.
And he was just like, whatever, I'm not really that bothered. And then I was just like, okay. So I came home, and he was moving out. So I dealt with that situation, packed his bags, said goodbye to him. But I need to let you know that when we split up, from us splitting up to him moving out in that month, one of my friends is really spiritual.
Yeah.
And she likes crystals and tarot cards and witchy-woo stuff. And I'd never really thought about spirituality, not in any way, shape or form. I'd been brought up to be a Christian. I'd left those beliefs at the door, knowing that there was something, and I believed in the universe, but that was as far as it had gone. I'd never looked at spirituality. I'd never looked at anything attached to spirituality. But what I said to my friend was, I want to kind of get into your crystals and your tarot and your woo-woo and your incense sticks. I said, I think it might help me heal. So essentially, when I had that thought, I invited spirituality in, but I hadn't realised that I'd done that. I opened a door. So my friend sent me a little bag of crystals, and I got my little incense sticks, and I did some tarot cards, and I thought, I'm going to learn all about this stuff. And that was all I thought of it. I didn't really know. I thought, I'm going to learn to meditate, and I'm going to do what my friend does, and you know, maybe it'll help me heal from this relationship. I don't know. I'm going to give it a go, because I'm always up for new experiences.
Yeah.
So I'd kind of done that in the month that he was still living with me. Gone to London, met this guy. And then when I got back from London, he moved out. But in that week, following having met this guy, really weird stuff started to happen to me. And I honestly, Craig, I couldn't tell you what was going on. But I woke up a couple of days later, and it were like I knew this guy intimately. It was like I knew how he thought. I knew how we were together in the bedroom. It were like we were going to be together, and I'd only known him 2 days as in professional situation.
Yeah.
I didn't know anything about him personally, but it were like feelings, like I was feeling something, and it were like I was falling in love, and I was like, this is weird.
In a different way than you had fallen in love before as well, so it was totally new.
And obviously I could separate the logicalness of I'd only known someone for 2 days
Yeah.
and felt like I had known him 1,000,000 years and more. And it got like deeper and deeper every day, and it was just like, I now know what it was. It was my soul remembering him
Yeah, yeah.
from a past life, but at this point, I had no clue. And I remember saying to my friends, I'm going to be living with him in 6 months. And she looked at me, she went, what are you talking about? She went, I just know it. I can feel it in my soul. I just know it. I know who he is. I can't describe it. I can't explain it. And they looked at me like, oh, bonkers. And I thought, I need to keep this stuff in my head. I could feel it. It was so overwhelming. And after about 6 days of coming back from London, me and this guy had a call. And one of the most profound, weirdest, bizarre things ever happened to me on this call. So we were on a video call and he asked me how I was. And my whole world just stopped when he asked me how I was, because every single note, quaver of the voice, syllable, when he said that, connected somewhere deep inside my soul. My whole body went hot. And I heard a voice in my head saying, I remember this voice. I remember that tone. I remember this person speaking to me. And he'd only asked me how I was. I have a million work calls, millions of people. Millions of people say how I am. I go, yeah, I'm fine. How are you? We crack on, and I was rendered speechless. All this weird stuff. I was just like, what the? He's only asked me how I am, and it's just like it resonated with something so deep inside me that I couldn't actually get my words out to say I'm fine.
Yeah.
But what I wanted to say to him was, I feel like I've known you a million years. I feel like I don't know who you are, but I know that I love you, and I wanted to say all this stuff, but I couldn't because he was someone I was working with.
Yeah.
So I was just like, yeah, I'm fine. I'm fine. You know, when you're just like a rabbit in the headlights, and he goes, are you sure? And when he tilted his head and he asked me if I was sure, it went double deeper, and I was just like, I feel like I've lost the ability to speak. And I'm the most like conscious, competent person you could ever meet, and I just thought, when you come off a call and go, that was really weird. That was just
Strange,
really weird. I don't know what that was. And then I think a couple of weeks later, I went to meet him in London. And I remember being sat with him and we were having a talk, and I could see like energy swirling around us. And I thought, can he see this? Is it just, what the fuck is this? I could see it. I was like, what is going on? And you know when you're just like, this is really weird. I could just feel love flowing all around and stuff. But he wasn't kind of
showing it, that he was
doing
showing
anything.
any signs.
I just thought, I must be going a bit crazy here. I just thought, this is all really weird. And then I worked with him again, and this time I could see his aura, and it was bright green, just surrounding him. And I was like, well, why can I see green colours coming out this man? Like, what the hell is going on here? So we had like 4 individual events where we'd met each other and weird stuff had happened, but nothing.
Just little nudges from universe.
Yeah, no, it's like, I don't really know what. I'd still at this point didn't have a clue that it was connected to spirituality or spiritual awakening, but. And then I stopped kind of working with him, and I wasn't due to see him again till March the following year. So he just became like, I started dreaming about him. I would have thoughts and visions, and all this stuff was remembering our past lives together. But I had no clue. I know, and you know now what you didn't know, because I'd done all my research. So fast forward between, that was August 2021 to March 2022 when my spiritual awakening actually kick-started. And this is a right tale, honestly, because this is the day that my life changed. This is the day it's ingrained in my brain. Everything changed and my life just turned upside down. So we were at a work conference. He was there. And from when I'd met him in August, and I think obviously I'd seen him the 4 times, but then I'd not seen him for like 5 months.
Yeah.
I'd just been at home healing. I'd been writing my book, trying to just get
Going
myself in a
inwards a
good
bit.
place. Yeah, trying to forget about what this weird shit that had happened. I thought, you're trying to just dismiss it because you don't really know what it is. So come March, I'm feeling good. I'm feeling like I'm healing. I've kind of forgotten about this dude and all this weird stuff, but I knew I was meant to meet him in March at this conference. And so we're at this conference, and I was hosting the conference. And I was seeing people in and seeing them to my seats. And I remember being at this table, and I had my back because I'm talking to the people on the table. And all of a sudden I felt this presence behind me. I felt this energy, and I turned around and he was just stood there. And it was like an overwhelming energy. And I was like, can he not feel this? Surely he must be experiencing something. If I'm experiencing all this weird stuff, he must be experiencing something. But he was just game face.
Yeah.
I was just like, this is so bizarre. So at this conference, 20 people had to kind of stand up and do a presentation. And he was last to go. And I remember sitting there as he's standing up to do his presentation. And little did I know, in these next 10 minutes, my life was about to change fundamentally. So I'm sat there, and he stands up to do his talk. And he says, I'm divorcing my wife, and I'm completely in love with my girlfriend. And in that moment, when he said that, it was like someone just flicked a light switch in me. I felt an electrical shock move through my body, and I felt like a flick. But prior to him going on stage, and I don't know if this is going to sound really weird, because it is, because everything that happened to me was weird, but prior to him going on stage, I can only describe, I felt like invisible hands trying to reach out and grab him.
Yeah.
I felt it. I felt him like coming out of my stomach to try and grab this guy. And I thought, what the fuck is going on with me? Why am I losing the plot? Is this what happens when you turn 40? I'm like, and when he said that he was in love with his girlfriend, it was just like, I felt an electrical current go through him, and it's like a light switch had just been flicked like that. And then it was over, and then it was coffee break. And I stood up to go get a coffee. And I'm stood there, and this was only like a few minutes after he's finished his speech. And I turned around, and he was stood looking at me. And he just looked at me and he went, I'm really sorry about what I said. And I just looked at him, and he just looked at me, and I could hear what he was actually, I could hear his soul saying, I shouldn't have said that. I'm devastated that I said that. But I didn't know what to do. I was like, I'm professional. You don't know this guy personally. Just ask him why. So he just went, I'm really sorry about what I said. And I just went, why? And he was, I think I was too vulnerable. And I didn't know what to say. And I just went, oh, no, you were fine. And he looked at me, and I looked at him, and he walked off, and I just avoided him for the rest of the day. And I thought, why has he just come over and apologised to me about what he said? That is
bizarre, isn't it? Well,
weird.
if the things hadn't happened prior.
Yeah. And then that night I went to bed, and this is when everything changed. So bearing in mind, I'd been at home, I'd been healing, I was in a really good place at this conference. I was feeling fresh and alive. I went to bed that night, and I woke up at 3:33 in the morning and projectile vomited down the toilet. And I had these horrific pains in my stomach. And they were that bad, they were causing me to throw up. And I thought, oh, what the fuck's happened to me? What the fuck's happened to me? And I'm like, laid in bed, I couldn't go back to sleep. I was in agony. Do you know, it felt like someone was just stabbing me in my chest over and over again. I thought, oh, maybe I've eaten something. Maybe I've caught a bug. And so the next day, we were still at the hotel where we'd had the conference. We had a team meeting, and I kept having to leave to go throw up because I was in this horrific amount of pain. And I had a week off work booked. And I thought, this won't last long. This will be a 40-hour thing, whatever. Yeah. And this was the time when you couldn't get an appointment at the doctor's and you had to ring up. And I'm telling Doctor my symptoms. He goes, you've got gastroenteritis. And I'm thinking, no, I am. I know I am. I know how I'm feeling is nothing actually physically wrong with me, but I don't know what's wrong with me. So I thought, let me go on my little holiday because I've got a little chalet by the seaside. So I went to the seaside, and day 3, day 4, day 5, day 6, day 7, day 8, day 9, it just carried on and on. These pains just were not stopping. And then what happened, it was like, I'm a very energetic person. Yeah. I'm always reading a book or listening to a podcast or going for a walk. I've got a million things going on. All of a sudden, my energy just went...
zapped.
Gone. Disappeared. And I felt depressed. That was the only way to describe it. I felt like I was at rock bottom and my life was over and I had these pains and I just felt... is it deliberated? Deliberated?
We're on about vocabulary earlier.
You know the word I mean. I felt like I died.
Yeah.
I felt like something had died inside of me, and I couldn't figure it out. Yeah, I just felt
deflated.
I could just about survive work, and work took a lot of energy of pretending to be okay, but these pains were just relentless, Craig. Felt like I'd just been stabbed over and over and over again, and I cried and I didn't know what to do, but something inside me told me that it was my soul that was unhappy and it wasn't anything actually physically wrong with my body, like I didn't have cancer. But the logical side of you wants to fight it. I've got a parasite, I need to take parasite tablets. I've got this wrong with me, I need to take this tablet. But deep down inside, I knew that this was a spiritual pain, and I didn't know what to do or where to go or how to find an answer or what to do about it. And I was just like, and this was the start of my spiritual awakening, was going into the dark night of the soul. Because the reason that I know about the dark night of the soul is because I started Googling, getting pains and your soul being unhappy. And I didn't know what I was searching for on the internet. I didn't know what words to put in.
The algorithm I found with myself is the algorithm seemed to feed it up because obviously it's all connected anyway, phone to the universe, and it would just throw in me stuff that I want, and you take to it. Did you find that yourself, or?
I didn't know what to look for on the internet. I didn't know how to describe what was happening because I didn't even know what the word spiritual awakening meant, Craig.
Yeah. Well, I
didn't know that was a thing. I didn't know, so I was like, but every time I wrote something into Google to try and find out, it kept pointing me to spiritual awakening. And I was like, well, what's a spiritual awakening? And what causes a spiritual awakening? And then everything changed again when it says if you meet your twin flame, it can cause you spiritual awakening. I thought, what the fuck's a twin flame?
Yeah.
What the fuck's that? And then all of a sudden it were like, like you said, dominoes.
Yeah.
And then I'd gone round to my friend's house, who was my hairdresser, who'd given me the crystals, and I went, I'm in a lot of pain. I think it's spiritual, but I don't know how to fix it. I don't know how to make it stop. I need some help. I'm going to get emotional.
Oh, yeah.
And she said, why don't you meditate on it and see what happens? And I've got tissues, it's fine. I said, I've never meditated in my life. I don't know what to do. She went, just go to bed and just close your eyes and just ask the universe for guidance, or just like try and, connect. And I thought, right, okay, I'll do that. And I never really meditated before. Yeah. So my opening lines, I was trying to bargain with my soul. I'm going, listen, I know you're an happy kid, but there's no what I can do. This guy's got a girlfriend, and if you're unhappy about it, I don't know what to do to fix you. I'm really sorry. And so I laid in bed for an hour, and I've got my crystals, not really knowing what I'm doing here. This is all new to me.
Yeah.
And I'm just laid there, and I'm like, I just closed my eyes, and all of a sudden it was just like I'd been transported to another universe. I got shown in this meditation, imagine the universe just being out in space. I got shown these two souls that were just like flying through space and time together. And it was saying that this soul of this man has been with my soul for infinity, since the beginning of time. We've had no one else, and that we've been intertwined, and he's my twin flame, he's my other half. Well, I was like, what just happened to me there? What I'm getting visions now?
Yeah.
When you just like, and I'm like, well, so I was like, right, so I need to Google that. I need to understand what two souls together mean. And then I learned about what a twin flame is. And then as you start researching stuff, you find stuff that resonates with you. It speaks to your soul, doesn't it? And you go,
it's like you speaking now when you're telling this story. I know when someone's telling truth, and we'd said this first time and we met, it just lights up. It's like the intuitive part of you that you didn't always know about.
Yeah. And I think to become spiritually awake, you have to accomplish certain things in your life. And I think I had to find my self-worth to go on to the next step. Because I don't think without that I would have got this. So you do go through traumas and upsets in life, but it's all leading to something else. That's my reflection.
Yeah, it's the thing that chisels you. Yeah. It's like you are just this slab of stone, and then each trauma or these suffering that makes you, it's knocking off the dead bits. That's the way I see it anyway. And
it's stripping back your programming.
Yeah.
Stripping back everything that you've ever known to try and connect you to source, which we'll talk about source and God in a minute. So I did this meditation, and then I remember sitting there thinking, well, if he's my twin flame and he's the person that I'm meant to be with in this life, am I going to be with him? So I won't lie to you, I sat every day waiting for my mobile phone to ring with him saying, I love you and I want to be with you, but it never came.
Yeah.
And I couldn't understand why. And it wasn't me that couldn't understand, it was my soul. And she was craving him and his soul, because apparently they'd been together forever in past lives. I'm like, when the fuck did I start seeing past lives? Where I can see, and then all of a sudden I remembered back to when I first met him and all the weird stuff that happened. He awakened my soul. He awakened something inside of me, and I hadn't realised it. But I was remembering our past lives together, our love that we'd had together, our interactions together. So as these pains went on for 4 or 5 months, Craig. I couldn't escape them. But there's an interesting story to it. But as I went through the dark night of soul, my dog nearly died. I fell out with my best friend of 20 years. I lost a few other friends. I had a big Instagram account for my interior design that got hacked. And I felt like the universe was stripping everything away from me. And it wanted me to just be quite hermit and solo. And I didn't, if I knew now what I knew then, I'd have been able to navigate this a lot better, right? But you don't know, do you?
You don't know until you know. But that's how you know.
Yeah.
So it's a loop.
I wish I'd have known you because I wanted a manual. I wanted to say, this is a guide to spiritual awakening 101, step 1. You're not going crazy, and this is what happens when this happens. But I have also learned that everybody's journey is individual to them, and it's your perception of what's happening to you. And so I carried on going through the dark night of the soul, and then I realised I'd become allergic to alcohol. Because I used to be a party animal. I'd binge drink all the time. And I remember I went out and I started drinking, and one or two things would happen. I'd either projectile vomit it straight back up, or I would be awake all night. Like all night, I couldn't sleep. And I thought, this is new.
It just makes it unenjoyable. And for me, anyway, as well, is like when I tried to revisit it, it's just not enjoyable anymore. It's like, this don't fit. It used to fit the old puzzle, but
Old life,
the
new life.
old, and this is what I perceive as a rebirth. Is you've gone back to what you like your factory setting. It's like, we didn't like alcohol.
Yeah. Well, alcohol's poison.
You had to break into it. Like
It's crazy. And I thought, well, what's that? But I am an idiot because I just carried on drinking and realised that actually it was not pleasant. And I was trying to cling on to my old life, but wasn't realising that I was doing that. The awakening was taking me furiously through these stages. And I was like, well, I guess I'll give up drinking then. And obviously now I'd realised about twin flames, I'd realised about spiritual awakening, my life became obsessive about research.
Yeah.
Researching into everything I could get my hands on, reading books, trying to understand stuff. I probably did the equivalent to a degree in the year that I studied everything that was going on.
Did you find it like I did the exact same, but I was very sporadic? It was like it were having a TV. Well, people sat in front of a TV, and it were feeding me everything. You know, like there's so many subjects that I were interested in, and it was just all going in.
Yeah.
But like remembering, I didn't have to go too far into it.
Yeah.
But it's interesting. But it's because it's like your new character wants to download all that.
I wanted to understand what was happening to me. I got Gaia TV as well. Got a subscription. Started watching about ancient pyramids and ancient civilizations. Started looking at books, reading about. I read The Surrender Experiment by Michael Singer. That was one of the best books I've ever read.
Yeah, you got that.
I thought, right, you've got to surrender to what's happening to you, but it's hard when you're used to just controlling your life and doing your thing. And I wish somebody had told me what was going on and prepared me for this. But I suppose it's your own discovery, isn't it? So all this bad stuff was going on. These pains were still happening. I was still having to work with this guy.
Has he still not said all?
No, he's not said anything.
Apart from
and I
apologising.
tried to avoid him as much as possible.
I bet.
Because I thought, well, he's with somebody. He's declared his love for her. My soul's heard that. I think my soul was in mourning. I think this is where the pain was coming from.
Like the purging of it all.
Yeah, well, I can only assume that, but I'll tell you another story in a second about that, because I think he murdered me in a past life.
Wow.
Or we were that in love and he fucked me over and betrayed me in some way that the pain was too horrific for me to take, and I killed myself.
Wow.
And I'll tell you how that's come about, because I'd obviously be around him, and these pains were happening all the time for these 4 or 5 months that we were working together. And then I didn't see him for a period of time, and the pains stopped. And then I saw him again, and then the pains would start again. But I hadn't made the association of being in his presence and getting the pains. And I'll tell you something, Craig. I hadn't seen him for a year. I had a video call with him for 1 hour. And the next day, I woke up and I was rendered useless for the whole weekend. Pains were back, depressed, no soul, rock bottom. And I hadn't seen him for a year, and I had a 1 hour video call with him, and that's how he left me. And I just thought, you've either murdered me in a past life, or I've killed myself, or you've hurt me that badly.
Yeah.
Because when I first met him, it was all the good stuff that came through, like how we were together in our relationship, all the amazing stuff. We were felt safe and loved, and I knew how he thought and how we were in the bedroom. To every time I had an encounter with him, I would get physically ill afterwards.
Yeah.
And that had never happened to me with anyone I've ever met. So there was magic going on between us.
Yeah.
But I tried talking to him about it on that call a year later.
Yeah, I was just about to say, did you?
Yeah, I sat down and he was talking about business for 15 minutes. I went, listen, I'm not here to talk about business. I'm here to tell you about how you've changed my life.
Yeah.
And I said, I want to sit down with you and I want to explain the impact you've had on my life and how you've changed it. And even then, he wasn't interested. He was very... he wasn't interested in hearing it. And I don't know if it's because he was scared of the magnificence of what it was.
Yeah.
And it's easy to be in denial, or and we arranged to meet in person so I could tell him my story. We had a date in the diary, but when I woke up the next day and I was in physical pain again and felt depressed, all like I'd done when he declared his love, I thought, if I see him in person, I'm going to be rendered ill for a month.
Yeah.
So I said to him, listen, I texted him, I said, I can't meet you in person, but I can send you a letter if you want to know. And he never replied to it. So but they say in twin flames, there's a runner. When you do your research into twin flames and the twin flame relationship, they say there's a chaser and a runner, and he's the runner and I'm the chaser. And they say that twin flames will always come back eventually, or sometimes they're not even for you in this lifetime.
Yeah.
I think he knows, but I think it's too scary for him to open that door and explore it, because he had had an affair with the woman who he's with and ended up leaving his wife. And I think he thought because we worked together and if we got embroiled in something, it just wasn't... So it was easy for him to be distant, away. And I'd even said to him, you won't let me connect to you. And he was just like, I don't know what you're talking about. And he just kept pushing me away and keeping me at arm's length. And I thought, that's fine, I'll be happy to keep at arm's length. So do I believe our story's finished with him? No. Do I think that the universe will bring us back together at some point? Probably.
Yeah.
I'm never say never. But I was recovering from... So that was 2022. I then moved house at the beginning of 2023, at the end of 2022, beginning of 2023. And the next bizarre thing happened. But a lot of things happened in between meeting him and the next bizarre thing that happened. I went to do ayahuasca in Portugal. The universe sent me there. Then I went to do mushrooms in Amsterdam. And I started doing loads of other research and documenting my experiences because it was all really weird. And then the next profound thing happened to me, and this one was just, wow. So I was renovating my house, and the guy that normally does my boiler couldn't get to me till March, and it was January. And obviously I had my Instagram. I tried to restart it again, and I'd put on there that I was looking for someone to do my boiler, and one of my followers said, do you want me to send you my fella and he can do it for you? And I was like, yeah, fine, that'll be great. So this guy turns up at my house and doing the quote, looking at the work, and then he left. And you know when someone leaves and you just sit there and go, did I just get into a really deep and meaningful conversation with a stranger that I don't know? Because normally trades just grunt at you, no offence. You don't really want to sit and have conversations with him. Me and you would though. We won't get any work done, we'd just be chin-wagging. But I got into this really deep and meaningful conversation with this guy, and I thought that was weird. But why have you opened up to a complete stranger? Didn't think anything of it. He started ordering all the boiler bits. He said, what I'll do is I'll come next Sunday to fit your boiler. And I said, am I right if I go out for a walk? Because you know what it's like when someone fits a boiler. Floorboards are up. It's just absolute carnage. So I said, I'll go out for a walk. He said, we should be done for 1. I said, right, I'll come back at 12. So I comes back from my dog walk. Bear in mind, I didn't have a shower because I didn't have a shower or a bath. I just had some kind of bog because we were in the middle of renovating. So all my hair was scraped up. I had no makeup on. My hair was greasy. I don't care when I'm around trades, right? And I got back and I walked in the house and the door was off its hinges. There were floorboards up everywhere. And I just thought, oh, Lord above, what is this mess? And I thought, right, I'll sit in the kitchen with my laptop because at that point I was wanting to look for an ayahuasca retreat.
Yeah.
Because I'd started reading ayahuasca everywhere I looked. Ayahuasca. I thought, right, I'm obviously being called to do something called ayahuasca. And I'd started researching Graham Hancock's and his experience with it and what it does. And I thought, maybe that's my calling. So I sat at the kitchen table while this plumber's doing his work. And I ended up like verbal diarrhea around him, telling him all about my spiritual awakening, telling him about what happened with this guy. I got the cards out, I did him a reading, and as when he left, I gave him a crystal. I gave his partner a crystal because she was pregnant. And when he left, I felt an overwhelming sense of love towards this man.
Yeah.
And again, like the remembering with meeting this guy in London and starting to get all these weird feelings.
Yeah.
I felt like I loved him, and I was like, you
Not
don't
again.
know. That's weird. Again. And I just, when you go deja vu, anyone, and then all of a sudden it was just like, it was a different kind of love to what I'd felt with the other guy.
Yeah.
That was like an all-encompassing, twin flame, universal love. This was more like a deep bond with him, like he was family or friends.
Yeah.
And then again, this was more of my spiritual gifts being given to me that I didn't know that I was going to get. But I thought, well, I'm obviously can see people's past lives.
Yeah.
Because I was out on a dog walk not long after I'd met him, and all of a sudden it was just like images and feelings were put into my brain, because my meditation is dog walking because I've got ADHD.
Yeah.
So I do it in a different way. And all of a sudden I saw a picture of me and him as kids, brother and sister, together. I saw what our relationship was like, how we were thick as thieves, how he was really traumatised from stuff and I always had his back, and how much we loved each other, and how we always got into mischief together. I saw it all. And I was just like,
when you say you see it all, how does that come about? Is that just as you're walking the dogs, it's coming into your forefront of your mind, or?
I don't know how to describe it.
Yeah.
I feel the feelings of how we were in our past life.
Right.
Is one way to describe it.
Yeah.
So, and then another way to describe it is, imagine watching a movie and the movie's downloaded into your head, but it only shows you certain shots of things, but you feel what was happening at that time.
Yeah, no.
So if like you watched a video of your kids when they were being born or something, you'd remember those feelings from that time.
Yeah.
Even if you saw a picture, it was like that.
Like flashbacks, kind of.
Yeah, but it wasn't scary. It was just like, oh my God, he's my brother. He was my brother in a past life. And I was like, okay, this is new.
Yeah.
This is also very new. I don't really know what to do with this. And I wanted to tell him.
Yeah.
But how would you feel if you'd gone to someone's house and you'd gone back and they'd gone, oh, I think your sister from a past life? You'd be like, all right, babe.
I think with what's going on at the moment is like, speak your truth. If that's what you're feeling and that's what you see, you never know what's worse than to say, oh, she's nuts, I'm not going back there. Oh, you know what I mean? Like, it's going to be a passing person anyway that's going to come in and out. And I think it's speak your truth, because I haven't had mystical stuff like that. I've had ones where dreams come through and that's all connected as well, isn't it?
Yeah, your dreams are visual
That
representation.
you didn't used to be, but over the last few years, over the last couple of years, people have bobbed up like the following day who were in my dream, or people causing mischief that didn't normally, and I hadn't seen in 10 years, and then they
Have you ever thought about someone and then they text you 5
Oh,
seconds
it
later?
happens all the time.
Yeah, all the time.
In fact, Daz, who I work with now, it happens to him all the time. It's because like you can activate through you having an experience your aura, like your twin flame did. It activates something in you. So the more that you're around people, like my colleagues, it happens to them. And then he's starting to see it all, and now he's like, oh, my son's now starting to, like exactly what you said. We've just talked about someone that bobbed up, and he's starting to cotton on. And I'm like, you're getting nudges to start looking at different aspects of your own gifts, because you've got gifts somewhere. And I think that's what it's all about, is delving down and seeing where you fit into it. I wouldn't know where my spiritual gifts lie. I think I'm still unraveling where I haven't got to where I'm
That'll
need to
happen
go.
when you least expect it.
Yeah, and I think so, and I think as long as my take on it is it's trying to push you to being your best self. So it's going to be painful because you've got to shave off them parts that don't serve you. And that is the
Absolutely agree.
painful process because
Shedding your
we've
old
made
skin.
ourselves an identity out of what we've been told to do and all these things that we actually think it's ourselves, and then it's like, whoa, it's not.
Yeah.
But then you're trying to build this new self, but it sounds really confusing. Sounds you're trying to build your new self, but really, essentially, you're trying to get back to factory level.
Factory settings.
Yeah, like I think what's she called? Something Pia. She talks about it. Is no child comes out of the womb, essentially, they're not a racist or don't have a
Racist,
religion
sexist,
or any of that.
bigamist,
So
yeah.
it's always getting back to that loving nature that we all love each other to a point of where it doesn't matter where you're from or what creed or whatever. Um, so you're trying to get back through that, but there's still all this middle junk that's
It's all the
still
stuff you've been
attached to you,
programmed with you.
and you're trying to find out. And I think I'll ask you this question because it's one where I've just started to get a bit more into it. Did you feel like it made you really serious, the spiritual awakening, and take away your fun side? Because for me, it's only just creeping back in. I'd have a great sense of humour, but it seems to abolish that for a long time, and it felt like I'd lost me. And you're trying to piece back. You've dissolved the old self, which you knew so much about, and then that's
Yeah,
gone.
it's your
And then
identity, right?
you're still trying to put stuff that you liked about the old self back in.
Like carry on
Yeah,
drinking, carry
yeah,
on
yeah,
trying to have a normal
yeah.
life.
But I mean, like the good stuff, like the wanting to be connected to you and get to your inner child,
Yeah,
really, where you can have fun and it's not all so serious,
yeah.
because you don't want to be. Yes, it's great, this spiritual awakening, but there's got to be some fun in it. There's got to be. You've got to make it playful. Otherwise, it's what's point in being in here if it's all that serious all the time. And I'm just wanting to know if that happened to you
Yeah.
or if you're still navigating through it, and what kind of things have you done to reconnect to your inner child?
That's a really great question. So yeah, I do agree with you on that sentiment because I think you're in a whirlwind of emotions and you don't know what's going on and you lose your sense of humour because you're just trying to figure out what the hell's happening to you and things aren't fun anymore. I became a hermit. After the Dark Night of the Soul, I just went into hermit. I just wanted to sit at home on my own and I didn't want to socialise with anyone. I didn't want to speak to anyone. I just wanted to piece this puzzle together. Inner child work was done while I went and did ayahuasca because I'd done a lot of healing from my parents and how they brought me up.
Yeah.
And I thought I was fully healed in that aspect, but ayahuasca showed me I still had some inner child healing to do.
Oh, that's cool.
And
You wish to share?
yeah, I'll
Yeah.
share it. Yeah, so it was like I had a Tasmanian devil locked up inside of me, and it was rattling on the cages trying to get out, and I was causing a bit of ruckus in the ceremonies when I was on the ayahuasca, unintentionally, but I was kept being shushed, and it was like I was being a naughty kid.
Yeah.
And I could see this Tasmanian devil inside of me shaking the bars, wanting to get out. And I spoke to the shaman. I think it was after the second ceremony, before the last one,
Yeah.
because I'd kept getting told off in these ceremonies. And I remember crying. I said, I feel like a child. I feel like I'm being told off. I said, and I ain't got any control over what's happening to me. I said, I feel like I've got a Tasmanian devil locked up inside of me that's trying to get out and cause havoc, but in a mischievous way, but not intending to cause harm. But because you keep shushing it, it feels shame and it feels sad. And she's like, it's your inner child. And all of a sudden I was like, of course. Because as a child, were you always told to shut up and sit in the corner? Yes, I was. And you weren't allowed to be you as a child. You felt locked up. You felt caged. And this is what the ayahuasca is bringing out. So she went, meditate before you do your third ceremony. Give permission for your Tasmanian devil to come out, but just sit with you and be at peace. And I'd never, ever thought of it like that. And I just went, oh, okay, I'll try it. So I meditated before I went to ceremony. And I said, you are welcome to come out and join me. We can just be chilled together. Don't feel like you're locked up. You can escape. The door is open. Just come out and join me. And that was the best ceremony I had, my third and final one, because I felt the door open. I felt the Tasmanian devil come out, and I felt it just sit on my shoulder and be at peace with me.
That's so cool.
Amazing, right?
Because it's like, I think it goes back to like emotions are only energy emotions. So if that energy's got stuck in you, then it self manifests into the Tasmanian devil, or it can be something beautiful. But we're not ever. I think Buddhists say you're not supposed to ever keep hold of it. Energy's always supposed to be in motion. We're supposed to, and that's where they say be like water, because it's just letting it
Let
flow.
flow.
The more we cling on to these emotions, are the things that do weigh us down, and then it becomes a part of the program.
And that's it. But the thing is, it's the awareness of, I didn't even know that I had that inside me. I wasn't aware. Ayahuasca showed me that. That was a phenomenal experience.
Definitely recommend.
I think that if you're on a spiritual journey, you can't not have it part of your journey. I think I went to ayahuasca, they ask you to bring intentions, and this is hilarious. This is how much of a novice I was. I'd written down, I want to be better at my job, and I want to do this, and I want to get that, and it were all like material
Like a
stuff.
manifestation book.
Yeah, like basically a list of stuff that I wanted from universe.
Like it put you off to Argos.
Yeah, and I basically put it on this altar, the ceremony with all my fucking shopping list of all the stuff that I wanted. And the universe was like, I've got other plans for you, sweets. I was like, okay. And none of that stuff came about. It was all, my trips were sunshine and rainbows. I met Mother Ayahuasca on the beach. I asked her how the universe was made. And she told me.
Yeah, what did she say?
I asked her, I remember vividly, I was stood on the beach, we were side by side, and we were looking at like some rocks in the water. And the beach was there and the sun was out. So I didn't actually look at her face. We were side by side. And I said to her, how was the universe created? And she said, everything that creates life is feminine energy. She said, the sun gives life to the earth so the grass can grow. That is feminine energy. She went, the water provides for the plants to grow. That's divine feminine energy. Divine feminine energy is the creator of life. And then I realised that God wanted a man.
I could say that.
But we have a portal between our legs that births life. How are we not goddesses? How are we not walking goddesses? We can create life.
Yeah.
We can birth life.
Yeah.
And now it's just like a normal, mundane, day-to-day thing. It's one of the most magical things that a human can do, is to create life and birth it between your legs. And if you think about, and that's what Mother Ayahuasca told me, and then smart ass over here went, I already knew that. And then she disappeared. I don't know why I said that to her. I thought, who the fuck am I? And then she just disappeared, and I thought maybe you shouldn't have backchatted Mother Ayahuasca there, Adele. But, there's the Tasmanian devil in me, giving it all this and that. So that was interesting. And then my trips were just beautiful.
Yeah.
Just really nice. I feel like people had some bad times.
I think, it's what they're going through though, and it's. I think a bad trip can still be a good trip.
Yeah, it's the learning that you get from it.
It's not like some people react to it different, don't they? Like,
well, the girl next to me in the ceremony, she's from Saudi. The second that ayahuasca went down her mouth, she went into childbirth, labour. For 8 hours, she was trying to push a baby out of her vagina, constantly screaming. They had to take her outside. They couldn't stop it. She had to literally go, and she woke up the next day. She's like, Adele, my abs. I'm fucked. I was like, my ears are fucked from listening to you give birth for 8
hours. What were it then?
So she was cleansing out generational history, because she was, if you think about Muslims, they married off the kids when they were 9, 10 years old, and they were generations of trauma that I think she was releasing. But what's really weird about ayahuasca is it connects you to the person that's next to you. Right. So because she was next to me and we'd formed a close bond, in my trip, I saw her vagina just shooting out loads of babies. They were just shooting out millions of babies, and I'm just like sat holding hands watching her shoot out these babies. It's like, oh my God. But I remember I had a conscious thought, I thought, am I in some kind of temple in the middle of Portugal with a load of random strangers off my tits on drugs? I was like, yeah. This is funny as fuck. So some people had really nice trips. Some people gave birth for 8 hours.
Yeah, I've heard mixed bags. People having really good stuff, and then the other ones like it's really difficult, and they've got to come out and do the dark night of the soul, where it kind of flashes it back after, and it's a reflective thing. I found that with Cambo, like obviously you don't hallucinate on it, but then it were the days, weeks after were just life lesson after life lesson, and it was reflecting certain scenarios that I've had before in a totally different scenario, and it just I don't know how it'd reflect back, and it like the penny dropped, and you'd be like, right, okay, need to sort that out. It was just it's funny how it all works.
Yeah.
It is really funny how it all works.
Well, going back to meeting that guy that turned out to be my brother in a past life, the way that the universe constructed that, so when he finished doing that boiler, I was never going to see him again. He was gone from my life. And I'd left, that was the Sunday. On the Monday, I went away with work and I didn't get back till the Thursday. When I walked in the house on Thursday, I had water pissing out the ceiling. And I thought it was from the pipes he'd fitted, so I had to ring him. And he came round to fit the pipes, and then more weird stuff happened. Because he was fixing the leak in the bathroom, and I was just sat outside, and we ended up talking about tarot cards, and I got the cards out. And I did a reading for him. And you know how I said, like, on that phone call when he said, how are you? And I just started to feel 1,000,001 things and it all came through. I did a card reading and I read, so he just disclosed something quite personal, and I'd read a card and it absolutely mirrored what he just said.
Yeah.
And he looked at me and I looked at him, and in that moment, like, the universe just rotated 50 million times and I just felt 1,000,001 things, and it was just like, he couldn't have run out the house quicker, and I was like, I don't really know what happened there.
Yeah.
And then he ended up having to come back again because something else happened, and I thought, universe, what are you doing? Like, I'm not supposed to ever see this guy again. And you keep bringing him back, and on the time that he came back, I tried to say to him, listen, I'm going through some spiritual awakening that I told you about when you came, and I think you're my brother in a past life. And he took that for, oh, she wants to really have sex with me. And I was just like, okay, I've realised I've got to be careful who I say this stuff to now.
Yeah.
And I've told one person, he didn't want to know. I've tried telling the other person, and he thinks I want to have sex with him. So maybe I just need to just not say this stuff to anyone else.
Yeah.
But this is where one of my first psychic lessons came out, one of my gifts that I learnt that I was psychic.
Yeah.
And again, I don't know about you, but my gut intuition makes most of my decisions. I'm not logically led. I'm not feeling led. I'm gut led. So my intuition will tell me if it's wrong or right, and it'll give me a feeling, a physical feeling. I'm very tuned into my body. And as I was booking my flights to Portugal to do ayahuasca, I booked the return flight to come home on a Sunday, and I was due to be back at work on the Monday. And the flight home was at 2:00 in the afternoon. And the second I pressed that button to book that flight, a voice in my head just instantly came on and said, that flight home's going to be delayed and your week is going to be ruined. And I went, where'd that voice come from? And you imagine all this stuff happening to you that's never happened to you before, and you're trying to figure it out, and you've met this guy and he's a twin flame, you've met another plumber and he's a brother, and then you've got a voice talking to you in your head, you think, and then I started trying to bargain with this voice. I'm going, what are you talking about?
Don't try do that.
Like, none of my flights are ever delayed. And then this voice just kept saying, it's going to be delayed, your week's going to be ruined. Anyway, as it turned out, a couple of days later, I ended up having the rest of the week off from work. And it's the second that I got the news that I was having the rest of the week off work, the voice stopped. Just instantly stopped, and I thought that was weird. And then I didn't think anything about it. Flew to Portugal. I arrived in Portugal 45 minutes earlier. The pilot said, I'm not quite sure why we've got here so early, but we've had a tailwind that's pushed us here 45 minutes early. And I thought, universe, I'm here. Stop stressing me out. Yeah. I'm pushing me. I'm here, right? I'm here to do my ayahuasca. And then on the airport on the way home, it was 1:45. The flight was at 2:00. And I'd forgotten all about this voice in my head. I'm sat there getting ready to board the flight. And then the pilot turns up, takes the microphone at the front of the stand, where you check in. And he goes, ladies and gentlemen, I'm really sorry to announce that there's a problem with the plane. We've got something wrong with the nose and we need a certain part. There's no engineers here at Portugal, so we've got to fly someone from Manchester, so we won't be moving for another 6 hours.
That's wild, isn't it?
And when you just sat there and you're just going, am I Delulu? Like, what is going on? Am I losing the plot here?
It's giving you the notifications to put the trust in it.
Yeah.
And I don't know about you. Have you gone against the voice with stuff and just watched shit unload?
I'm dead. I'm dead. Have you done that? I would be scared shitless to go disobey
I've done it so many times. And it's just silly. Like, I've got one at the moment that just told me to fast for 3 days. So
oh, wow.
I get it frequently.
What, the voice in your head?
Yeah. And I've gone against it, and everything.
And what's happened when you've gone against it?
Everything just starts going wrong that should go right, And when
wow.
you are listening to it, like yesterday, I went to 2 separate jobs, and it normally takes 3 hours per mix. I was done in like an hour and a half to 2 hours on both mixes, and it just went. And that's what it does. And when you go against the grain, everything starts going to crap. And it can be food as well with me.
Really?
Yeah, because a lot of people are like, oh, you're too hard on yourself with food. And I went, it's not your vice. So you can't, like, yours might be alcohol or something harder. And just because it's food, you don't think that's a thing. I'm like, that's my vice.
Right.
So I need to jump off it. And I think everyone's getting pushed in a certain way at the moment to drop what doesn't serve them. And that's mine.
Release
It's
what
like,
serves you. What food doesn't serve you?
it serves me. I'm greedy with it. Like
Alright.
I'll just go out. Like I'll eat healthy food, but when I eat, I need to just tone it down.
Well, you're not the only one, kid. And the change in the seasons just made me into a right fat monster because I just can't get enough chocolate down my throat.
That's the one
It's
though.
greed,
It's
innit?
sweet, yeah, and it's like a caged animal. When I start eating, it's just like woof, and it'll go down. And because I've cut everything else out, it's like I can't. I just have this one thing, and it's
You
like
can't buy one biscuit. I've got to eat the whole packet.
Well, they say to it, yeah. Well, that's what I like, so I don't buy the biscuits.
Yeah, you just don't buy them. I'm like, I've got so much chocolate. I want to go back. I had a really good routine of fasting and eating really clean and looking after myself, but then you slowly slip back into your bad
You go in
habits.
waves. It is
Yeah.
waves, and I've learned to be a lot more kinder. But when the universe starts slapping you out face for not doing it, you're like, right, it's buckle up time. And the thing that I had on Tuesday, I'd ate badly, and everything was going crap. And I was like, I can use this. This is perfect to use. Use it as the alchemy. If someone's wanting me to eat crap, because this is the thing, when people say the interspiritual war, and I think we're all trying to overcome ourselves. It's not about there's a devil out there. It's the internal battle that we're all having. Because if everyone wasn't having an internal battle, and everyone gets these voices, because everyone would be walking around like an Adonis or these tight little bodies, then we all haven't. It's because we're having this noise and this chatter.
Yeah.
And this is the question I wanted to bring to you: is intrusive thoughts.
Yeah.
What's your take on it, and do you have them, and how do you combat them?
So yes, I used to have intrusive thoughts. Not so much now. It was when I was with my husband, and I'd be in the car with him, and a voice in my head would be just like, "Just crash this car into a wall, just chuck it off a motorway bridge, just do this, just do that." You know what I mean when you have those
No,
intrusive thoughts.
I honestly know, yeah.
Or if you were sat in a meeting, it'd be like, just grab that glass and smash it against the window. I'm like,
Yeah.
what's going to happen if I do that?
It's wild, isn't it?
They're wild.
I think they're sick. Some of them are just sick.
Yeah, they're
And
all
you're
about
just like,
killing people and ending their
yeah,
life.
yeah. And I've had someone's, I don't even want to say what, and I'm like, that ain't me.
No.
And that's when you know there's that moment, and it's happened all my life, I think, but you didn't really take it into consideration. Not that I acted upon them. I probably did when I was drunk, but you think, who the hell's that? Who's talking to me?
And I think, because I'm going to talk about PMDD as well, which is interesting.
What's
'Cause
that?
that's hormonal. I'll talk to you. It's post. Do you know what PMT is? It's a
Oh,
post-menstrual tension
yeah, yes,
that women
yeah.
get. PMDD is post-menstrual dysphoria disorder. So I'll talk about the experience with my husband. I wasn't happy in my relationship.
Yeah.
And I think the underlying cause of intrusive thoughts, obviously, if you haven't got mental health problems, is stress and anxiety coming out because you can't deal with the situation you're in. So it comes out as an intrusive thought. So if you think about the situations you've been in when you've had them, were you stressed? Were you anxious? If you were in a good place, you shouldn't really be having them. But if you're in a bad place, you probably recognise that you've got them more.
Yeah.
So PMDD is like a dysphoric disorder, is essentially women's education around periods. I started my periods when I was 10 years old.
Right.
And the education you get is, here's a sanitary towel, you'll bleed once a month and you'll get PMT, which means you'll get a headache and you might get cramps. And that's the amount of education that you get. So all my life, up until I was 42 years old, I just believed that what I was experiencing with PMDD was PMT, was what most women get. Learned that actually from TikTok, it's PMDD. So what happens? in the build up to your period, 1 week before your period, you get thoughts, and the thoughts are horrific. And when I tell you they're horrific, you are worthless. The world would be a better place without you. Kill yourself. No one likes it. Why are you even alive? You're so ugly. You shouldn't go out in public. You're the most disgusting creature I know. You're vile. No one likes you. Do you think you've got any friends? You look at you. You're at home alone. You've got not. And I've had these since I was 10 years old,
Wow.
right? And when I was 21, I met a guy, and I was telling him about this. And I didn't even know it was called PMDD. I thought it was just PMT. And I was like, I get really bad thoughts about myself, and I'm really struggling with it. And he said, take evening primrose oil. I've taken evening primrose oil since I was 21, and it changed my life. My PMD disappeared because evening primrose oil is a natural oil from a plant that balances out women's hormones. So you don't need antidepressants, you don't need drugs. You just need to take evening primrose oil. And you take it every day, and it balances you out. Now, when I moved house at the beginning of 2023, I'd packed all my tablets away, and I'd been busy renovating, and I'd completely forgot to take my tablets for up to 3 months. And I started having all these suicidal thoughts, these bad, all the stuff that I described to you came back. And I was in month 3, and I thought, I feel like if I have another month of this, I'm actually going to kill myself. I don't know what to do. So I went to the doctors, and the doctors described me antidepressants. And I thought, oh my God, my evening primrose oil, where is it?
Yeah, the light
Where is
bulb
it?
went
Where's my
off.
evening primrose oil? Started taking it, just disappeared. Never had it again. And this is what I mean with, like, when you get intrusive thoughts, sometimes they become hormonal in women. But I only found out about PMDD through TikTok. I was 41, 42, scrolling on TikTok, and I listened to a podcast of these 2 girls talking about PMDD, and they were describing my symptoms to a T. And also, you get a night where you can't stop eating. You have to eat everything in your house. It's like you just can't stop. It's wild. And they talked about the overeating. They talked about and then my friend who's just had a baby, she came to me and she goes, I feel like I want to kill myself every month. I went, please take evening primrose oil. And I went to see her the other week, and I said, how are their thoughts? And she went, oh, I haven't had them. And I went, your evening primrose is working. And
That's
so
beautiful, is that?
it's a natural remedy, but the doctors want to put you on drugs.
Oh, yeah, of course, because they get money out of it, don't they?
Yeah, and it's like, so you've got to understand that if you have intrusive thoughts, it can be, as a woman, your PMDD that you don't know that you've got, because the education around periods and women's hormones is not that widely publicised. But I also understand that when I was with my husband in the car and the marriage wasn't good, and I wanted to crash the car and jump it over a motorway bridge, it's because I was feeling stressed and anxious in the relationship.
Yeah.
So I understand the difference between my thoughts when my period's due and being with my husband when I wasn't in a good situation. And I think intrusive thoughts, if I would say to anyone that's got them, observe what's going on in your life at that time. Observe how you're feeling when you're having your intrusive thoughts, what's going on around you, and what is happening. Because we don't do it, we just go through life like most women don't realise and track their period, and then they wonder why they're cranky. When they get the period, they're like, oh, it's all okay now. So I started tracking my period, because that way I can be a better person. If I know on my build up to my period, I can work from home for that week, because all my energy disappears as well.
It's really interesting you said that, because it could be just a coping mechanism. It happens when I'm fasting.
Oh, does it? The intrusive thoughts?
Yeah, because and then I'm thinking, is it pushing me towards just eating as a comfort, or is it trying to step me out of wine so I don't
I
get?
wonder if it's the devil trying to
Yeah,
take you
well,
from
that's
take
what
you from your purpose.
that's where I see. Yeah,
Yeah.
because when it attacks most is like when you know what I mean, when I'm trying to connect. And I see it now as how close I'm at to being my best potential if something's attacking me that hard. That's the way I see it.
That's
But
a
then
great
I'm,
mindset.
but then I'm what we're on about is trying to use that alchemy of like, if I'm getting attacked hard, it's time to dig deep.
Yeah.
And tried like today,
It's a
I
lot
was
of
just
strength
doing it
needed for that.
it was deep breathing. I had to. It will like it come over top, and it will just. I don't get anxiety, and it's been quite recently. It does. It's like shaking you. And it's wanting you to eat. And I'm like, no, but I'm like, you ask for the higher power to come in, like, ask Christ, the Christ consciousness, how do I get through it? Because you won't get, the way that I also look through it is, that's why God is good and God can be evil. He won't put you through something that you can't get through.
But I'm also wondering, with you saying that, because you're observing what's happening and when it's happening. But I'm also thinking, I wonder if you took evening primrose oil, if the intrusive
I'll give
thoughts
it a
would still be there.
go,
You need to
definitely.
give it at least
I'd
3 months to get inside your system.
I'd definitely give it a
Take the
go.
1,000 milligram tablets one a day,
Yeah.
and just observe. And I'll ask you again in 4 or 5 months when you've been taking them if you had any intrusive thoughts.
Yeah.
Because it could be your hormones from the fasting and certain things getting released in your body as you're healing that's causing them.
Yeah.
You don't know unless you experiment, do you?
No, well, also when you are fasting, the smells that you start to kick out are horrible. Like your armpits or whatever, it's just coming out, and you know when you've been out drinking and your mouth, your tongue feels awful. It is like that because your body is excelling it's just spewing out all the toxins.
I've
It's
just
enough for
had a
doing it.
voice in my head just now, just randomly say something, and I'm going to say it to you because it's so weird. It just said to me, why doesn't Craig start his podcast with a meditation with the person?
That it's weird that you say
It
that.
just came in my head then.
It's weird that you say that because I wasn't gonna do a start off. The idea for it was, remember how we actually met on the We Are One, and
Oh, that
you
was
were the only
hilarious.
person that turned up. But it's led to this,
Yeah.
and it also shown me it's what I want to do for you down the line. I think this is what's going to be first, but I do want to get to that point. When we did the meditation at the end, that's what I want to write the same meditation, but I'll give it to you. I'm gonna do it in a video so you can an audio, so each person that comes on the podcast, I want them to listen to it and then write down and send it over to me what they pictured. And at the end of so many episodes, we'll put it out to the listeners and they can listen to it. And then once they send it in on the comment section, we get to see what the guests also put and see if there's any marrying up
I love
with
that.
alignment. That's the kind of thought, because I was trying to think of a segment of what we can put on that makes us a bit different from other podcasts.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. I think, when you say you struggle to get going,
Yeah.
I think a 5-minute meditation with your guest, just getting yourself in the zone, that voice just popped into my head and said that's what he needs to do.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you want to try it.
I'll definitely be doing it. It's like, again, with me, it needs to be preparation.
Yeah.
I'm very sporadic, and it's trying to rush through
Yeah, you just need to get in that zone, don't you?
Yeah. Tick it all off day before, and then I have stuff set up so you're not rushing about. But we'll get to that point.
I know, we've got so much to talk about. I still haven't finished my tale.
Whereabouts were we?
So I met the dude who became my brother.
Yeah.
So that was weird because, again, you feel all the feelings. So imagine you've got a sibling. If your sibling died, you would know how much you love them, but it's not as prevalent as when they're alive.
Yeah,
it's only when they
you
die.
get
And it's
habituated to it.
so the feeling that comes through is really overwhelming. But this is a bit sexually explicit, this next bit. I have known that I'm a sexual being and I have a lot of sexual energy for a long time. I have to do it every day. I have to have that release every day because for me it's a release of everything that I'm holding on to. I release it through an orgasm.
Yeah.
And when I was in Portugal doing ayahuasca, I spoke to one of the facilitators and I said, I need some help. And she was like, what help do you need? And I said, I feel like I've got a load of sexual energy and I want to do something with it, but I don't know what I need to do with it. Help me understand what I can do differently or how I can do something with this.
Yeah.
So she went, leave it with me. I'll go speak to people that know and I'll come back to you. And she came back to me and she said, okay, so I've spoke to some people and they've given me this advice. And I said, what's the advice? And she went, when you're masturbating, she went, imagine your body is white energy and white light. And imagine it curled in the base of your spine, like Kundalini energy. I've since found out, only recently, it was a Kundalini awakening that I had and not a spiritual awakening. But I'll come on to that again.
Yeah, yeah.
So she says you have to imagine this white light at the base of your spine. And as you're preparing to orgasm, you take that white light in a coil through your spine. And then when you come, you shoot it through the top of your head. She went, that's what you need to do. And you can manifest with it. And I was like, this is all new. Okay, I'll go try that. So it's difficult because you try to concentrate on a lot of different things at once.
Multitasking.
Yeah, quite literally. And I did it. And I'm not joking when I tell you this, Craig. My soul left my body, and I was nobody, nowhere, in nothing. I couldn't feel my body. I couldn't feel my arms, my legs. I was on my bed at home, but I wasn't in my bedroom. I was in a different dimension. I had left my body completely, and I was gone. I was in the universe, and it felt like I'd been gone for years, but it was only seconds.
Yeah.
And you come back into your body and you go, what the fuck did I just experience there? Did I just have an out of body experience? And I'd never done that before in my life. No one had ever said, try this when you're doing that to get X, Y, and Z. But I'd always been interested in Tantra and Tantric.
Yeah.
But I don't have anyone to practice on, so just read it.
Gone solo.
I'm single, by the way. I'm not surprised after all these crazy stories. So I started practicing that. And I remember I left my body again, and I started panicking because I didn't know where I was. So I started twitching my leg.
Yeah.
I was like, where am I? And I came back because the second you start feeling your body, you come back. And that led me on to another journey of I feel my body is energy. I feel the energy when I'm walking. I feel the energy in the palms of my hands. I feel like I'm a really energetic being.
Yeah.
And I feel like I could shoot fire out of my hands. And I'm like, I need to find out more about this. So that led to my next thing, which is started studying Reiki.
Yeah.
Because I was
it's beautiful. A beautiful thing is Reiki.
Oh, honestly, I became a Reiki master practitioner. I started studying it and practicing it. And somebody said I've got a migraine, and I went, come here, and I put my hands on them, and I cured it instantly. And then one of my friends had really bad ovulation pain, and I put my hands there, and it cured it instantly. And I could see things when I do Reiki on people, and I thought, oh my God, like this is just a wild journey, this spiritual shizzle. So I've learnt to leave my body through my orgasms. I've learnt that I've got all this energy, and I've got a Reiki surgery on Saturdays at my local beautician's. I rent a room.
Oh, do you?
I'm going there on Saturday to do Reiki practice.
Oh, quality.
And I'm hoping that I cure enough people and help enough people that will end up curing on the block for me. But
That's
we got to start
cool.
somewhere.
Is there something I've wanted to hold here at some point is I wanted to get 3 or 4 healers like yourself.
Yeah.
And I wanted to get people in that with severe, like, we'd start off small with people with bad backs or something. And because I've heard about they got banned in America years and years ago. But they get the Reiki practitioners and get round whoever's ill, and they'll like meditate and pray upon them and use their hands, and there's been accounts of them walking out just perfectly fine. Because if you just think it is a hologram, we're all just holographic.
That's what Brian Cox said when he came into the talk. We're just holograms.
We are just holograms. And if you think cells and we can program them like we can program as mind, and I honestly see the next 20, it might even be closer, but I think 20, 30 years with how it's progressing in this spiritual awakening on a mass scale, I think people will have superhuman powers. I know people might be laughing at me, but I think you'll watch this podcast back or listen to it and go, "You were right." I think we haven't even, I think we use 5% of his DNA and under 10% of his mind. What happens when we're tapped into that fully, like, or even half? Like, it's mind blowing to me. I don't even think we can fathom what the possibilities lie and why.
Don't you think though it's going to take us? That's our original state of how we were.
Yeah, because we are creators. We are. If in all spirituals, in all religious texts, it says we were made in the likeness of God. So we're creators. There's only us that's lost us way, and it's about us getting back to that state. And I think this is where we are trying to we're trying to shine light on the darkness because it needs exposing, because people can't. It'd be very scary if people get these powers and put them to bad.
So one of my best friends, her ex-husband could levitate, and he was a bad person. Yeah. Really bad. And she told me this in the strictest of confidence, so I'm not naming any names.
Yeah, no, that's cool.
But he could levitate. And I was just like, I didn't believe her at first, but she wouldn't lie to me. And she was telling me, and I was like, people have got these powers. And the thing is, Craig, everything around us is designed as a distraction. It's phones, the TV, work, everything. If you think about hundreds and hundreds of years ago when none of this existed, you could sit and harness your powers. And I'm actually wonder if I sit at home one evening for 3 hours and don't do it and stare at my palms hard enough, that's going to take years of practice. But I do believe that we could probably move a glass with our
Have you
energy.
seen? Well, there's accounts that I follow on Instagram. They're telekinesis, isn't it?
Yeah.
They're doing it by they're starting off doing bottles, just plastic bottles, and now then they've got big jars with the glass bottle underneath it, and they can do it.
Yeah.
And then they've started with trees. Like he did it the other day in a park, and it were all like the bubbles coming over, and he just went, "Watch this one." And he out of 100 there, if you get points at it, and he just stops. And it's, I think Santos Benucci shows where he gets like a glass vase, and then it's got a propeller on top, and you can move it and spin it round. And also you can buy it online called the Eggley wheel, and you put your hands at either side, and it's got a spinning disc, and it won't be like lit up until you put your hands at either side. And once you start having it, you've got to picture it moving round. It starts to take the electromagnet from your hands and spinning, and you can spin it faster and faster.
I want that.
Well, there's plenty of stuff out there at the moment, and this is it. You've got to lean into what you're drawn to.
Yeah.
I need to lean into something, but I think this at the moment is where my energy needs to be. Like, we talked about this earlier about being so sporadic. I want to go tech on world, but
boil the ocean.
Yeah, and the enough hours in day, and I don't think that's where I'm most needed. I think I'm most needed trying to bring the knowledge in different ways, like interviewing yourself, interviewing. It's more of a talk, isn't it?
But you are following your path.
Yeah,
That's all I did throughout my spiritual journeys. I felt like the universe would give me signs. You'd explore those signs and you'd go down that road till you got another sign and then you go down that road. You're just following your path.
Yeah.
It's not a manual and there's no direction saying go down this road.
No.
But you'll know intuitively now where you need to go next.
And that's what I want to ask you on is being a coach. Do you how do you know other people's purpose? You know, when they're asking for, would you direct them if you know they're doing something wrong? They're going down the wrong career path.
So the purpose of coaching is to raise self-awareness in others.
Yeah.
So they can go on and unlock their own potential.
Yeah.
So I don't give advice.
Yeah.
I hold the mirror up and give observations of maybe possible blind spots or feedback.
Yeah.
So if someone was looking for direction, and I've actually done a course on finding your purpose, it starts with knowing who you are, what you're good at, what your strengths are, what your areas of weaknesses are, what your development areas are. Understanding oneself is so important because how will you ever know what your purpose is if you don't understand who you are and what you're good at? And so people might come on to coaching and it might be reframing certain thoughts or removing limiting beliefs, because the thing that holds most people back is the stories that they tell themselves. So as a kid, your parents might have said, you're no good with money, you're really rubbish at that, so you believe that your whole life and you just carry that with you and you never explore that thought or challenge that thought and you believe it to be true. And I spend a lot of time in coaching unpacking limiting beliefs that people have either had and never challenged or believe about themselves in a negative way and we reframe it in a positive way.
Yeah.
But I don't tell people what I think. I don't give them advice unless they explicitly ask for it.
Yeah, yeah.
It's coaching's designed to help people come to their own realisation.
Yeah, bring their own self-awareness, because otherwise if it's not brought on by yourself...
Well, it's like, if I told you to do something versus you coming up with the idea yourself, which one are you more likely to go with?
Yeah, it's the own self-awareness, isn't it?
Exactly, and that's why coaching works with kids sometimes, because if they think it's their idea, they're going to be more inclined to do it. You've just coached them into it. And
we're all just big kids, really.
Yeah. That's it. And I think mentoring, you can give your advice, you can give guidance, you can... The thing is, right, if you're going through something and you ring one of your friends up and you just want to offload, that friend will think the best thing to do is to try and tell you what they would do in that situation and give you advice, but all you want to do is be heard. You don't want advice ramming down your throat. You don't want their opinion. You just want to get it off your chest.
Yeah,
Or they try and tell you it's all going to be okay or something like that. But actually, we don't just sit with people and go, I'm here, I'm listening. You can just say whatever you need to say. We want to rush in there. We want to try and fix it. But the best thing to do is just to sit with someone and just be with them in that moment.
yeah,
And that's what coaches do, is we're there for them in that moment. And the way I describe coaching is, imagine a really messy ball of wool that's all mixed up is your brain, and you're letting all that messy ball of wool out, and as a coach I take it and I put it in a nice neat pile, bit by bit, and we make sense of everything that's going on in your head. So when we did contracting,
yeah.
you were like, I want to do this and I want to do that and I want to go over here and I want to do that. I'm like, coaching will help you put it in an order. It'll help define your priorities, what's the most important to you, and then I'll ask you questions and you'll figure it out your own way.
Yeah.
Because you don't need me to tell you, because everything is in you. You've got all the answers in you.
Yeah.
My perspective of the world is completely different to your perspective of the world. So why is my way the right way? Why is my advice the right advice? What if I tell you to go do something and you do it and it don't work out? So I will just ask questions so you unlock everything in you. And you'll go, yeah, I know what I need to do now. And so that's what a good coach should do.
Yeah, it's just like wiping some steamy frosted glass.
I like the visualisation.
It's kind of...
It's just giving you clarity.
Yeah, no.
Because a lot of time we get stuck in our heads and we don't often sit and organise our thoughts or...
Yeah, and that'll take you on to the next question. How do you deal with reoccurring thoughts? Because that is a definite problem of mine.
Talk to me about that a bit more.
Like, it'll be the same thought from the day before, and it'll just be like that with God, like the argument for and for not. It's been that same question that when you brought it up. Why is he good and why is one bad? That's been on my thought for about 2 weeks, but it'd be the same thing, and I'm still coming to the same conclusion, but it's just like noisy chatter, and it's really irritating.
That's interesting.
Cause it's like the only thing that is taking me back to at the moment, and it bobbed up in my meditation when we went to Italy. It came in a meditation. It said, I've got mercury fillings. I've got about four to six.
I'm surprised.
And it said, go get them out.
Yeah.
It's a brain fog.
Yeah.
And
it's poison in your body.
I'm literally on the. I've asked around and the zeolite, and then I messaged the company the other day because they're like, "Oh yeah, you came up in meditation." I'm like, it's hard to explain it to people in it, but it's like the more that I researched upon it, it says it's really bad for brain fog because it's constantly poisoning you.
Yeah.
And you can get, I didn't know, you can get mercury poisoning even more so if you're eating fish at the same time.
Oh, wow.
Obviously, it adds up to, because I think I've got 5. You can only have one taken out at a time because it's so poisonous.
Really?
So it's not one procedure.
Right. 5 trips to the dentist for you then?
Because I was trying to look down the most holistic part, that you can go down.
To a mercury healer that moves it via like shamanic movement and
well,
drums.
just like which came out because I'd read there were not TikTok, well similar. It came up at a video and they said they'd got sound healing and they were growing teeth back. And I know it's not far fetched. You can go search it. With a guy in Canada and he's still doing it. I think to this day. That's
incredible.
But I'm like, how long does that take? Are you sat in a chair? playing some hand pans for a while.
Hello, where's my tooth already?
You sat there 2 years later, you've got half a tooth. So I don't know which way, but is that something that happens to you, or is it just me? Because it's very hard to switch off, is that?
Well, I'm going to start with logical, and then I'm going to go a bit more spiritual. So natural human beings have 80,000 thoughts a day. And 90% of them are the exact same ones that we had the day before. Yeah. We're very much on autopilot a lot of the time. So I'd say I have, because I've got ADHD, the hyperactivity, I overthink stuff. Even though if somebody said that I'd be an overthinker, I'd say, no, I'm not overthinker because I can make decisions really quickly. But I can have the same thoughts day in, day out until the situation dissipates and then the thoughts go away. So I'd say if the thoughts are there, the universe is trying to ask you to explore something or show something, it's not satisfied with the answer that you've got.
Yeah.
My ADHD can keep me. I'll give you an example of my ADHD. So I went to bed one night and I'd heard a clip and it said, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. And that played on my mind for 6 hours constantly, over and over again. That thing, I couldn't switch it off, I couldn't make it stop, I couldn't make it go away. And I think that's a bit of my ADHD.
Yeah.
So I'd say it's if you haven't got ADHD, I'd say it's a normal thing, because we do think a lot of the same thoughts that we'd had before, then
Yeah.
become musings, but sometimes we forget about it because we get distracted with something else, and then we'll go to thinking about something else, and that'll become a reoccurring thought, and then we'll get distracted with something else, and that'll become a reoccurring thought, and that's how you lose focus.
Yeah.
And your habits come back and all stuff like that. So I don't really have an answer for that.
Yeah.
What I would say is I'd observe the thought. I'd write the thought down. I'd write how often the thought comes, and then all of a sudden, one day, 3 weeks later, you'll think, oh, I ain't had that thought for ages.
That's a good thing. Just writing it down. It's the simple things, and I think I have definitely got to go down and get the dentist thing sorted, because it's something
You
don't
need to
bob
get
up into your meditation just by complete.
If the universe has told you to go do it, you've got to do
Yeah.
it, otherwise it'll punish you.
Yeah. I seem to like getting punished by it, don't I? But yeah. What were the? There were a question that I was going to ask quite selfishly. That were it. Quite a selfish question, but from being a tradesman, and I'd say my work ethic's through roof on that side, but transpiring it over to the other side of creating, which the podcast and that's great, but the ideas, bringing my ideas to life and sitting down and making business plans, I find it extremely hard to sit and get tasks done without pissing about.
Okay.
How do I get that work ethic from manual, hands-on, to putting it into practice on the internet or whatever it may be?
Well, when you started your own business, how did you approach that?
It was still just work ethic. I don't really do the backdrop of stuff. I send invoices. In fact, even Zoe sends out invoices. I don't deal with any of that because I find paperwork. I find it takes me back to school, and the attention span's not there.
Okay.
Like, you can't sit me. I don't know if it's from watching TV as early as a kid, and it's like made my brain to soup. But I like colouring in and stuff. I can sit there for ages doing that. But if you put a pen and paper in front of me, I find it very hard to just sit and write. I can journal a little bit, but when you've got to do tasks, I find it hard. I scapegoat off to it.
Okay. So what you've just said to me there is that your partner takes care of the paperwork for you, and that works in your business life.
Yeah.
So why is that not translating to the other life?
It does, but you know what? And I know we work as a team. I don't like to put it all on her all the time.
Right.
And I think I'm going to answer my own question here. Well, like when we said at the start, I'd love to do production, but I know that it's going to take too much time. Is it just a case of horses for courses? And if you're you're the one with the visions, use that and play to your strengths, or is it that you've still got to get down?
What do you think?
It's hard because I don't know if I'm stuck within a guilty frame that I'm not. I don't know if I'm stuck in that time frame of because I'm not physically being able to see that I'm working hard. I don't class it as working hard. But is that just me jumping into a different line of work and still trying to apply the same? What's the word I'm looking for? The same way that I apply that. If it's not being applied in great mass in front of me, I don't feel like I'm doing it.
So I'm going to just reflect back what you've told me, because the answer's in there and I can hear it. So you've said when you sit down to do paperwork, you feel like you're back at school. And then you feel like you're not grafting if you're doing the paperwork for this side of it.
Yeah.
What's that? What are those two things there that have come up for you?
School.
right? School, and it's the way you're seeing it. It's the
Yeah.
lens in which you're seeing it through.
Yeah.
You're seeing the lens of it reminds me of being at school, and you're seeing the lens of I don't like doing it, I don't want to do it. That's the narrative you keep telling yourself.
Yeah.
So what happens if you tell yourself a different narrative?
Yeah. You change game, don't you? You change lens. If you say make out it's gonna be fun, you're gonna see it as fun.
It's finding a way that you do it so you enjoy it. So you said to me, I enjoy colouring in.
Yeah.
Who says you've got to write with a ballpoint pen? Who says it's got to be written like this? You've got to find ways to make yourself see it as enjoyable and work and contributing to the bigger picture, but only you know what that would look like.
It's quite cool you said that because like there's an idea that I want to do with my brother, uh, a kind of restaurant, and I've already seen what it looks like. I know exactly what it looks like, but yeah, ball pen isn't gonna do it, is it? So I'll sit down and draw it out, I guess. Yeah, I guess yeah, it's just making it more creative and more fun, and going back to getting back with the inner child and not making it feel like it's in a classroom.
You've attached everything that you want to do to negative connotations from the past.
Yeah,
Let go of the past. Reframe that thought. You're saying it's a negative thing. You've told yourself it's a negative thing. You are telling yourself that narrative.
interesting. Definitely interesting. And it is like life is a perception game. It's how you look at it, and that's how it's going to be. Just
Well,
like at the start of this, trying to do takes.
well, perception's an interesting thing, right? So I was sat at the train station this morning at 7:30. It was cold, it was dark, and I had to get up early and go somewhere. And you can go, oh, this, I'm fed up of life. Here I am at this train station at 7:30 in the morning. It's cold, it's dark, it's depressing. Or you could say, you know what? I get free travel with work. I get to go to a meeting with all my colleagues. I've got a great job, and I get to make a difference today. It's all in which the lens that you see it through. And seeing that moment there when you were asking me for an answer, I didn't give you an answer. I asked you a couple of questions and then asked you about reframing your thoughts, but
Yeah,
didn't tell you what to do. And that's what coaching is.
yeah. It's a big mirror as well, isn't it? You're just reflecting back.
Yeah, just reflecting back what I'm hearing. I could hear the answer straight away.
That's
Is
cool.
this you detached negative connotations to everything that you're trying to do, but you're telling yourself. So I've got someone at work who keeps telling me that they're risk averse. If a big project comes up that's going to be risky but could be high reward, are they going to look at that person that keeps telling everybody that they're risk averse? But you could say, I have an interesting relationship with risk. I need a lot of convincing. I need to know all the facts and the data. I'm never going to say no to it, but I need a lot of background. Or you could say, I'm conscious when it comes to risk. It's all the way in which you talk to yourself and you frame your thoughts. You're using, it reminds me of school, I don't like doing it, I get easily distracted. How can you reframe those thoughts that you keep telling yourself?
Start to say, I get the opportunity to bring this creative mindset to life. Yeah, and then make it exciting. You're making it like a roller coaster rather than you're already putting up the looking at the time to go just how you would I did at school, just looking at the time of when I can clock out.
Yeah.
And then
Actually, I've got all this time to work on my future, and how lucky am I that I've got this moment to figure out what my future's going to look like. And I am working, this is my work time. I'm going to even get yourself a little clocking in station if you want to show that you are grafting. But it's your also when it comes to grafting, you said I don't feel like I'm physically there grafting. That's again you and your mindset telling yourself that if I'm not in a room going like this, I'm not working.
yeah.
How can you reframe that thought?
I don't that's the one that I find hard because it's like I physically like if I walk out of a room that I've done something, I know that I've done something.
Okay. So if you
But
physically walk out of a room and there's some stuff on a paper,
I know, but is it just that I can't measure it?
so what
Or
does that tell you?
what would I deem that's
A
I
success
mean
measure.
like I work in a lot of people's houses that do they'll work from home, but you're like, what do you actually do? You know, like, I actually
Yeah.
think that I'm like I listen there's nothing being done, and I feel like
That's judgment coming from you,
yeah,
guys.
it's judgment, yeah, and then I'm judging myself, aren't
Yeah,
I?
you're
Because
judging
if
yourself.
you're judging someone else, you're ultimately judging yourself. Yeah, yourself because
Yeah.
it
So
goes back to
you're not
Laura's
being
one.
kind to yourself. You're judging yourself harshly,
Yeah,
and you need to reframe your thought that work isn't just physical.
yeah, yeah, and dissolve. Yeah, because I know that that's where it lies for me. Is where I'm gonna get most out of it. Not doing stuff with my hands. You know what I mean? I mean like physical
Yeah.
manual labour. So
Do you want to capture that while it's in fresh in your mind
I do.
about reframing your thoughts?
It is something that's like it bugs me.
Because you're judging yourself, you're being unkind to yourself, you're viewing things through a negative lens rather than a positive lens. That you get the opportunity to write down what your future's going to look like and create it, and it is work, but it's work that you enjoy that much that it doesn't feel like work.
Yeah,
What about that for a narrative?
yeah, I like that.
But you have to believe it, Craig.
Yeah, that's the one. It's like I feel like where I'm at now is going. I know where I'm going to go to. I can see the final bit, or not say final bit, but like a bit down the road. But then I can't see how I can knit it together because I feel like I'm on a chessboard and I know the people that can help, and I feel like I can bring it all together. But I've got to put the work in and like, but I've got to build the business plans first.
Well, my coaching offer's still there.
Yeah.
And look at what we've done. Look what we've established in 5 minutes.
Yeah, no.
Just from you downloading and me offering a different perspective.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to take you up on it because I need to.
You need
I
to
think it's my
formulate a plan.
stage, and I think it's been knocking on door. Like the guys who I watch on gym and stuff, he's doing quite good on podcasts. He's like the number one thing that you'll do is like you think you know it all and you've got all the ideas, but if you ain't got coaching, you ain't got shit because the coaching will essentially start to reflect
Well,
all the things that you like. You can't see all the pieces. It's like having everything all over the desk in it and just not
not
knowing
knowing
how
what
it.
order to
You
put them
you
in.
don't know what. Yeah, you can't see
And
the final.
and that's exactly what we do in coaching. And the thing is, if you have certain actions off the back of each coaching session, you know I'll hold you accountable. So you therefore have to do them to move on to the next stage.
Yeah,
And you can't complete A without B. So you're trying to go A to Y to back to T and then up back to A again. We'll do it A, B, C, D, E, F, G.
yeah, yeah,
And we'll do it in an order that gets you organised. And I can help with those thoughts that you're having
yeah,
about the way you perceive things and help you reframe them.
yeah, yeah.
But you
No,
have to
that's good.
believe them.
Yeah, and how
And
do we build up that then? It's just by getting tasks done at a time.
so what will happen is we've done your contracting, we've written everything down that you
Yeah,
want to go at, and then session number one, I'll say, what do you want to talk about today? And you'll say, I need to know where my starting point is. And you might say, so we'll talk through the reality of what's going on, and we'll talk through what options you've got, and then we'll talk about what actions are going to come out of it.
yeah,
I'll ask you how long it's going to take you to do those actions. You might say 4 weeks. We'll meet again in 4 weeks' time.
yeah,
You'll reflect on how things have gone, and then we'll set a new goal. And every time we meet, we get a new goal, and it takes you a step forward because at the minute you're still at the same place. Look what you've done already
yeah,
without
yeah,
coaching. But I think it's more your internal thoughts about how you feel and think about stuff that's your blocker than it is a structured business plan of where you go next. But that will fall in line because we'll tackle both.
yeah. And then you're gaining confidence in the way that your whole demeanor is as well, aren't you?
Well, once you start seeing yourself achieving these goals,
Yeah,
you'll get more confident that you're going in the right direction.
yeah,
So, as you being the coachee and me being the coach, You are responsible for the coaching relationship. I'm responsible for the frameworks. I'm responsible for listening to you, reflecting back, challenging your thoughts, asking you questions to raise awareness, sharing my feedback and my observations with you, and encouraging you and cheerleading for you.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
you've got someone there that understands what's going on in your head, but also is guiding you towards the end goal that we set out in contracting, which
Yeah.
is your spiritual guru-ness.
Yeah, yeah.
All hail Craig.
I won't say I'm there yet. Won't say I'm there. I think I'm still a student on many things.
Well, do you know what I realised? I was very much saying to the universe, I need a mentor or a spiritual guru. I need them to tell me what to do, and I need them to impart the wisdom on me, and I just want someone to tell me everything. What I've realised over the last maybe year is that everyone I'm meeting on this journey is teaching me something new and a different perspective and a different way of thinking. And so I've gone to as many events as possible and met as many people as possible because there's something to learn from everyone. There's
Yeah,
not one guide that's got it all.
yeah. Well, and a guy said the other day, it's like you can even like a homeless guy can be a guru. It's like if your mind's shut off to it, they could drop a bombshell of knowledge in one sentence that just go. If it plants that seed
If
of
it resonates, it
yeah,
resonates,
it's
right?
like it doesn't matter who it's coming from. It's only when you shut your mind off to all outcomes that it doesn't come through that way. It's interesting, isn't it? Because I think we all do that sometimes. We shut our minds off. In fact, I was working at a house today, and I've probably shut my mind off to him and just wrote it off. But I knew I had to get back today. I'm sorry.
If you think about barriers that is standing in your way,
Yeah,
all the barriers that you think are standing in your way are just perceived barriers, right? There is nothing standing in the way except what you tell yourself is in your way.
yeah,
So how about you tell yourself something else? So as me, the way I live my life is that I don't believe any barriers are in my way. And if there is a barrier, I figure out how to go underneath it, over it, round it, blow it up, move it out the way. There is nothing going to stop me in my mind other than what I perceive to stop me, but that's exactly what it is. It's a perception.
yeah,
So
yeah,
you're saying, oh, school reminds me of this and I'm clock watching for that. That's all your perceived barriers from the beliefs you hold that are no longer serving you. So you need to release those beliefs that are no longer serving you so you can go on to be your most excellent self.
yeah. No, that's powerful, is that? That is powerful. So, on your journey, you think you found your purpose then?
So I looked forward to answering this question. It's such a good question. So I've realised, whether the universe has done it or not, that my purpose in life is transformation. And I'm going to explain what that means. So I do transformation as a career, and I do transformation as a hobby, and I do transformation as a friend. So my career, I go into organisations that need some kind of cultural change, or they're in a transition, and I help transform where they are now to where they want to be as an organisation. And I've just started a very new job, and they're in this absolutely chaotic mix, and they need to transform from where they are to where they want to be. And I lead them on that transformation.
That's cool.
I also coach people where I take them from where they are to where they want to be. That's transformation.
Yeah.
I buy houses that have been built in the 1960s that have got carpets that look like fish are swimming in them. And the second I walk in that house, I see what it's going to look like finished, and I transform that house. And everything around me is about transformation.
Yeah, that's cool.
So I think for me, my purpose on this earth is helping get people from where they are now to where they want to be. Houses, whether they like it or not, from where they are now to where they want to be. Organisations, it's in everything that I do. I take something from point A and take it to point B.
Yeah.
And leave it in a better state.
I like that. I like that a lot because I think that's what I'm trying to do on the podcast is give them knowledge. And I think it says how you can mark yourself as a good person is if you leave people better than you found them. And
Amen.
that's what you're constantly doing. Yeah. And that's what I constantly want to do. I think that's what it's about. It's about once you've gained that wisdom and that knowledge, it's to share it. Yeah. It's once your cup's full, is to then overflow into other cups.
Well, it's like we've just had a conversation there about some stuff that's holding you back.
Yep.
And all I did was use coaching techniques to unlock that in you. And therefore I've made a difference today. Yeah. And done a little bit of transformation. And that's made me, I'm like happy, tick that box.
Yeah. Well, that's what it's about, isn't it? It's about progression and it's about helping and then evolution of us all.
Yeah.
And that's what it's about, and not sticking still. I mean, it saddens me to think how many years of my life I just felt like I were stationary.
I don't think that purpose is taught in schools. I don't think people know what purpose is. I don't think anybody says, "Have you got purpose?" I think I remember very much my parents saying to me, "You'll leave school, you'll get a job, you'll buy a house, and you pay bills, and then you die." But they didn't say it like that.
Yeah,
But
no,
it's
but
very much that's your conditioning. No one says, "Go find your purpose, go find your calling." They just say, "Go find a career that you're good at." But no one ever says what really floats your boat, what sets your soul on fire. And I think some people don't have a clue what that is because they don't know themselves because they're in this conditioning and this programming. And I think I have only discovered this since I turned 40. My life's changed. Since my awakening, my life's changed.
yeah,
And it's like I found my purpose, I found my calling, but I didn't know what that was. I was just existing. I got married. I thought I was supposed to have kids with this person. Thank God they were both infertile. My ex-husband and my ex-fiance. The universe did not want me to have kids. They were both infertile. I was like, thank you for that. But you drift through life doing what you think are the societal norms. Get married, buy a house, have babies, get a career, do this, do that. You think that's how you should live your life, so you just want to desperately fit in. If all your mates are going drinking every weekend, you want to fit in. You don't want to be sat at home on your own. But nobody ever shows you there's a different way. And this isn't taught at school. You're in your conditioning. And that's what I mean. You don't know any different. So how would you know that you've got a purpose to fulfill? And do you know what, Craig? I'll be completely honest when I tell you this. There's a deeper purpose that scares me because if someone gives me a horse, I'll know that that is my purpose because whenever I think about why I'm on this earth, I'm always picturing a horse, me sat on a horse with a sword, going into battle and fighting. And I think that when it comes to the revolution, which will happen,
yeah,
I will be on the forefront fighting for our freedom. Like Braveheart, you'll never take our freedom.
yeah.
Maybe that's my last calling on this earth is to fight for whatever rights and freedom we want and I go down in a blaze of glory. But that's the vision I always get.
Do you think it's just showing you that on a spiritual level though? That's what you are doing now.
Yeah, it could be.
You are fighting the battle, and I think that
I love that analogy.
I don't actually think we're gonna hit a war. I think this is war. This is war of information. You've looked at how many things are gaslighted, or it's put on its head. In so many things
No
that
one
you
knows
go
what
down.
the truth is.
No, and you're not. And I think you've got to fuck around to find out. It's with your health and all this other stuff. Until you start messing about with stuff, you ain't gonna find your purpose.
No.
But so many people are so rigid in doing what they've been doing, and I'm seeing it a lot with. Just people who are retiring now, their generation, that they don't know what to do with themselves. Coming up to retirement and they are bricking it. It's all this, oh yeah, I can't wait to get retired. And then a year in,
And then it's then what?
they're packing half of them because they don't know. Life isn't a holiday. It's just not. Not every day. Because then you get habituated to it. And it's this dream of, oh, they haven't even got the health at this point. More than 90% of them haven't got the health to go and travel around the world, or the money, or so the system on they're being sold to what it were all going to be. This when they get to end of it, they realise it were all a lie, and they aren't finding the purpose. Because if you found your purpose, you ain't whinging.
Well, that's the thing. But I've got a bigger goal that sits behind what I'm doing now. So the reason I've been renovating houses is when I left my husband, I thought I want to renovate houses because I want to make enough money to pay my mortgage off. And then in between that time, I've gone, but is there something bigger and better that you can be aiming for? And as the years have progressed, the reason now, my raison d'etre and what I am reaching for in my end goal is I want to buy a piece of land and I want to build my own house and I want to build some Airbnb pods. And my vision is you can come and rent an Airbnb pod and just stay there in the middle of the wilderness in Scotland for the weekend if you want. Or you can book a coaching session or a Reiki session or a tarot reading or a paddleboarding session or a meditation or a horse ride on the beach.
Not
Or
mind reading. My last question was that. It would kind of, I was going to say, what retreats have you been on?
Yeah.
And is there a gap? What is there a gap in the space that you wish to?
100%.
And obviously, you've just answered
Yeah,
it.
because I've been thinking about it for years. And I thought, because what am I doing? Am I just going through life and paying bills and I'm going to die? What are you aiming for? What's the bigger picture? What age do you want to be retired for? When you want to pay your mortgage off? And it's hard to stay focused on that goal, but I know that that's my goal that I want to do.
Yeah.
And I think that for me, the people renting the Airbnb pods would bring in my income.
Yeah.
But you could choose to be isolated and just stay for the weekend, or you can choose to join a group meditation, go horse riding on the beach, have a Reiki session, all those wonderful things that we could offer.
I love the idea.
And have a big like fire pit where we can gather around on a Friday night and do homemade pizzas, and it would be alcohol free.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, like whatever works for you there. And I think people can just find peace in the wilderness and unplug, because being in nature is really good for you. The retreats that I've been on, I've obviously been to Portugal and done the ayahuasca. Yeah. That was really interesting for me because there was no caffeine, no nicotine, vegan food, no sugar, no dairy. And I'd never fasted like that or eaten vegan food, and I hadn't withdrawn from caffeine.
Yeah.
And for the first 2 days there, I was in horrific pain from the caffeine withdrawals. They're the worst withdrawals you can ever have. Splitting headaches, projectile vomiting. I couldn't get out of bed. I had migraines. I could just sit there and rock. Wow. The first night that I took the ayahuasca, I was still having the caffeine withdrawals. I took the ayahuasca, I projectile vomited straight back up because I still couldn't keep anything down because I was on the caffeine withdrawal. So if you're going to do it, do caffeine withdrawal before you go there.
Yeah, yeah.
So that was really interesting because I'd never kind of fasted in that sense.
How long did you have to fast leading up to it?
Well, it was like vegan food. So you were still eating, but you were eating like just pure, natural, raw food.
Yeah.
And it was interesting because I'd never done it. And I like doing things new and different. And it's all designed so you're more sensitive to the plant, to the medicine.
They try not to put any energy, like the meat, they try to keep it more sacred, don't they?
Yeah, they want your energy to be vibrating on its highest so you get the fullest experience from the medicine. The mushrooms was interesting. That I did that in a retreat in Amsterdam. But my trip was all about vaginas. Because I told you I had a lot of sexual energy.
Yeah.
All my whole trip, there's not one penis in it. It was all about vaginas. The power of the woman's orgasm. Apparently the pyramids of Giza is the woman's clit, the woman's arsehole, and the woman's vagina. I stopped halfway through my trip to draw a giant vagina. Don't ask me. People were like, nobody understands how powerful a woman's orgasm is. And I'm like, all right, thanks for that. So that was a really interesting trip. And I recently, last Sunday, I went to a retreat in the woods. It was like it's a wedding venue in the woods.
Oh, cool.
And it's like a teepee in the middle of the woods. We did a sound bowl. We did meditation.
I think I've seen your pictures on it, actually.
Yeah, it was amazing. So good. And then I've been to loads of retreats, and I think there's Tantra retreats in Portugal. There's ayahuasca retreats. My friend went on a silent retreat.
I really fancy going on one of them.
Yeah.
There's one on Know Thyself. He does one where you go to a silent retreat, but you're still integrated with everyone, but you're just not allowed to talk. Right. So you can cook together, and then I've seen the silent retreats where you could just in complete blackness. Yeah. Which one did
she went to? One in, I think it was Devon or something. She said it's really interesting when you can't speak, but you're inside your head and you've got a lot to process. But I've been to like where they do breath work and they release your energy through that. There's not many retreats I haven't been on. I like the ones where you do a bit of breath work, crystal bowls, go for a cold water dip, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I think there is always a market for it. People are very much taking advantage. Like coaching was abused because you get people to trust you and then they were stealing money. I don't know if you saw that on the BBC, the documentary they did on it. I think the retreats out there, you just make sure they're reputable and they're not there to abuse you or take advantage of you because you're putting yourself in a vulnerable position when you go on a retreat.
Yeah.
That's why mine would be kind of, you'd be independent so you could be on your own, but you could join where you want to join.
That'd be that's kind of who I am. I'd like the option to be in and out if I wanted to be. I don't like the structure of
getting up at 4 a.m. and singing.
Gotta be here, gotta be there, and I think then it takes you back to school. Are you being told what to do? And I don't like being told what to do.
I don't like being told what to do.
So I think that'd be more fitting to me.
I think so, and I think is that something you're thinking about, building a retreat?
I just think the opportunities are endless out there. I think it's something I'd definitely like to get involved in, and I'd definitely like the retreats that I go on and the people that I know. I'd like if we can collab and put something together, even if I wasn't actually doing it. You know, just be a part of trying to pitch something together, pick the right location, and put something on that other people. I find I've been on a couple of retreats and not, you know, you look at it and I mean, you might go, oh, he's a judgy twat. But I'm just observe it and go, it could be better if we did this. Yeah. And that's, I know
that's not judgy. I do that on every retreat I go to. I think that needs to be better. That's just feedback.
Yeah.
That's okay.
And it's not like I'm tearing it down. I just think if there's something that I know that I could make better, that's what innovation is, and
Yeah,
and
it's
like
continuous improvement.
yeah,
So I think there's nothing wrong with that. And I think if you think about my purpose, which is transformation, I'm even doing that with the retreat because I want people to arrive and then leave transformed, de-stressed.
yeah.
So my raison d'etre is transformation, and the retreat's part of that.
Yeah. Well, it's another aspect of it, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
It's cool.
So yeah.
Is there anything else that you'd like to talk on?
I think the spiritual awakening stuff, I don't think the journey's ever ends. I think I met another guy in my new job and it all started again.
Yeah.
And I thought, here we fucking go again. Oh my God. But it's weird.
You're gonna go lesbian by end.
It's only men that I see past lives with.
Is
But
it?
this dude, like I started getting voices in my head with him, and it's just like, okay, I can see everything that's going to happen. I got visuals of everything that's going to happen or could happen.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to avoid him because he's married. So it just brings me men that are taken and dangles a carrot in front of me and then doesn't let me have them. So I'm just like, I'm sick of this universe. Can you bring me someone single? So I'm just like, here we go again. So I think always expect the unexpected when you go for your spiritual awakening would be tip number 1. Tip number 2 is there's no guide for it. There's no manual. You've got to figure out your own, even though do your research, read stuff, look for stuff that resonates with you, that helps you know that you're not going crazy. Trust yourself in the process as well. Hold on tight. Hold on really tight. Because it's wild.
Not so tight though. You've got to let go a lot of it, haven't you? It's
Yeah.
hard, isn't it? It's hard.
It is, it's wild.
But would you now, if you had the chance, would you go back to your old life?
No, not in a million years. Not in a million years. It's one of the most traumatic things I've ever been through, but who it's brought me out to be and what it's done for me. Because when you start looking at spiritual awakening, you start going down rabbit holes, don't you? And like I said, I was already awake with like the system and society corrupted and New World Order and the music industry and all this stuff coming to light with P. Diddy and all that. I was already awake to all of that. But what it did is it took me back to the rawness of who we are, that we come from source. We're souls trapped inside humans, we're just souls having a human experience. And that what also ayahuasca showed me is that we'll never get to the truth of who we are. Because what it showed me, it gave me a visual of the world. And it showed me a cage being put over a cage, over a cage, over a cage, over a cage. And this is all the lies that we've been told and all the conditioning. And the truth's locked away somewhere in the middle, but we'll never get to it. And we even put ourselves in cages like you did. Yeah. I can't do this and I can't do that. You've put yourself in a cage.
Yeah.
We keep putting ourselves in cages. Beliefs. Yeah, these limiting beliefs. So I'd say there's a lot to get through, but find your people. Your vibe will attract your tribe, right? So find your people, just like the universe sent me to you.
Yep.
If you reach out, the universe will answer, and find the people that can help guide you through what you're going through. And I think that it's not over, and you get strapped in because you never know what's around the bloody corner. No. You never know what's going to happen.
It's exciting though, isn't it?
Yeah, I love it. Do you know what? No, it happened for a while, and I went, hey, come on, universe, do something because I'm bored. Normally you're right good at like giving me all this, and then it went, all right, you asked. Let me give you another married guy to deal with. I'm like, oh, really? I don't want this. I don't want this.
You got to manifest a single guy.
I do. I'm like, single, hot, emotionally available. Can we get that? No, I'm just going to keep saying. But I don't know if the men it's sending me from these past lives or whatever need to meet me to have their own awakening.
Yeah, you could be the trigger.
Yeah, I could be their twin flames, their trigger. But I think it'll all make sense. I don't know about you, but I keep a diary of everything that happens to me when it happens.
See, I should start doing that. I did it not last year before. I did writing it, and this time I just done. You could write a book out of it.
Yeah, well, I've literally got a book because I wrote everything down in the 2 years that was happening to me. But I think you should have it because you look back and you just think, I was so lost, I didn't have a clue. But look at where I am now. Oh, this happened and that happened, and I didn't have a clue, but now I know this. It shows you growth. It shows you knowledge growth. It shows you development. You've got evidence. And you say you sit down with a pen and a pencil and you're thinking, oh, this is like being at school. This isn't. This is you documenting your amazing journey. So maybe one day you are called to write a book.
Yeah, I should do really.
You know what?
Or even if I videoed it.
Well, you could video it. You could vlog it. Or what I'm a fan of is leaving myself voice notes. So I'll go onto voice memos on my iPhone. And I'll just, when I'm walking the dog, I'll just talk into that. Then you can get it transcribed into text and then it's done.
That's a very cool way of doing it. I think that's the way I'm going to go with it.
You're thinking very linear.
Yeah, I think that would work better for me. So I think it is all, you might say a limited belief, but it's the zap of like writing down. I'm like, it's like reading a book. I've got to really be, it's hard for taking it in because I'll get to the bottom of a page and it hasn't even gone in.
Crazy.
I can read Archie, his story. Most nights I'm fine.
Yeah.
Sometimes I can be reading it. I've read him it. I'm at the bottom of the page and I don't even know what I've said.
You've
And
zoned out.
yeah, but it does that, and I don't know if they're going back to the teeth again. That's what I think it is. But
There's enough applications out there. There's enough AI now for you to speak into something and for it to put into words for you.
yeah, because like also like I watch videos on stuff that goes straight in. You
Yeah.
know, like if it's explained well, and like meditation, if it's audio, fine, goes straight in.
Yeah.
But I don't know then if it's just being a visual learner. I know that's not visual with audio, but it's same. You know,
I've got to be in the right mindset to read a book. But you whack me in a car on a journey and I can smash out an audio book in no problems.
yeah. Well, that's where I'm at, and podcast like they listen to the whatever podcast and it goes straight in, and it's lighting me up. Like that's why I wanted to create something that lit up other people. You know, so. And the other thing I was going to ask, yeah, I'll ask you
Last question.
last question
yeah.
I will ask is, with vices and virtues, what's been your biggest vice, or it still is your biggest vice, and how do you tackle it, or how have you overcome it? And I ask this because if we're stuck in the vice, we're not creating, and we're here to create.
I think mine is patience.
Really?
Lack of it.
I wouldn't have said that, you know.
Yeah.
You're in a rush to get there.
I'm always in a rush to get there. It's my ADHD. I've got the hyperactivity part of it. So I can renovate a house, write a book, work full time, do 25 other million things and not sweat it, and then I'll have a complete meltdown. I'll burn out, hit a brick wall, be ill for like 2 weeks. And I think I want to rush through life. I want to, like, there's a voice in my head that's always going, what's next? What's next? What's next? What's next? What's next? And it's exhausting.
It's the ego.
It doesn't stop. It doesn't stop. Even if it's a weekend and I've got no plans and I'm out walking the dog, it's like, what are you going to do next when you get in? Look at you, what are you going to do next? What are you going to do next? And it's like, stop.
Come up for it. I resonate with what you're saying there.
It's exhausting.
So maybe try sit and meditate. I know you're saying you can't, but that changed it for me.
Yeah.
I'd say I still get it, but when you start to hear it trying to slip something else in, oh, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? And you're like, there's only ego in a rush. You are in a rush. Your soul is never in a rush because you know it never fucking stops. This journey, even when in this body, you've got all time.
Yeah, and I've really had to sit with that. Am I perfect? No. Is it still a problem? Yes. Am I working on it every day? Yes. Do I recognise it? Yes. Am I aware of it? Yes. It can be deliberating, whatever that bloody word is. Deliberating, I think it's the word. I'm not sure. So correct me if I'm wrong. I think I do meditate. I do get my cards out. I'll sit and I'll make myself a cup of tea and I'll just purposely ignore the voice. But for me, everything's got to be done now. We've got to go. It's got to be done in a hurry. We've got to rush through it. Learning to be a coach and being a qualified coach has helped me a lot with that because I can sit with people, not interrupt, be in their moment with them. But every day you're still practicing it. So I think for me, I think seek to understand rather than judge and practice kindness and patience with people.
I like that.
Yeah.
Love that. Do you also get a lot out of it? Are you coaching? Do you get a lot reflected up to you? The way you go, wow.
You learn so much about yourself.
I bet it's great for that.
Phenomenal. Like
Well,
doing my qualification was life changing.
Yeah.
Because I thought I was being kind and supportive in ways when I was being judgmental, and it was like an awakening in itself doing that. But every coachee that you have, like, even though I'm there to help you achieve your goals, I learn something from your thinking. And it helps me become wiser and richer and more knowledgeable, and I love it. So like every single person that sits in front of me is there to teach me a lesson. And I remember I said to one of my supervisors, we have coaches, supervisors, where we go and download our practice so they can help us be better. I'd specifically chosen a coachee who was the opposite to me, who was massively introverted. And I would sit there and I'd ask him a question. He would sit there for 10 minutes without speaking while I thought about it. And the voices in my head were like, oh my God, I hate this. I hate this. I hate this. I need to speak. And it's like, I was then learning how to sit in his silence with him and learn to switch the voices off in my head. So you should put yourself in uncomfortable positions or positions that you know are going to challenge you, because that's where the growth happens.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
And where do you, on the other side of that, your vices, where do you find you being most creative? And how do you get into that?
In your flow.
Yeah.
Put me in a house that's a chateau and watch it transform to life. And my houses are a reflection of my soul. So they're stylish, sophisticated, sensual, sexy, and they're an invitation in and to be part of this world. So for me, I love creating through my interior design. I love creating through, like, I had a craft night the other night. I organised a craft night where we just sat and made stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think that's, you talked about inner child. That's a lot of your inner child coming out and being playful with your creativeness. It's like, I like the transformation of things. I like, even in my thinking, in my creative thinking, it's like, when you were talking to me, it's like, oh, what would be a really good question to ask him? And that's a creative process as well.
Yeah, yeah.
And I just love my interior design. I love visuals and being outside in nature, even like just sitting in nature and just looking at the creation of nature.
Yeah,
I love that.
How simplistic it is.
But how awe-inspiring it is. And, how just we're like tiny little ants in this giant world, and we're here in a flash and gone in the general span of time.
Yeah.
And it makes you realise how insignificant you are. I always think about that when I'm on a plane and I see everyone down below, and I just think we're just completely insignificant, aren't we?
And you
really?
just think all my problems in my head.
Perceived problems.
Yeah, perceived problems. And you're like, yeah, there's a whole new world out there.
But I think you've got to embrace the inner child. I bought a colouring in book, and a book just to like doodle in and draw and write notes, because we just get so wrapped up in, we have the blinkers on in our day-to-day life. We eat, go to the toilet, have a shower, look after the kids, work, do homework, and you forget about nurturing who you are.
Yeah.
We've been conditioned out of it.
Yeah.
At what point in school did they teach you to do that?
No, again, like your head says, is like what we're going to do next. It's always that.
Yeah.
And it's allowing yourself that space to be just you and get back to what you used to like doing as a child, because you'll still like it now.
And there's your point proven. We're human beings, not human doings.
That's cool. Well, thank you very much, Adele. And have you enjoyed it?
I loved it.
Great.
I could stay here all night, to be quite honest. It's a great combo. Thank you for having me.